Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers
with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Hello and welcome to another wickedly good episode of Box Office Bingers. Ernesto is geared up and ready with his nice wicked shirt, and I am wearing the only green that I think I own. I tried close enough. That's where I was aiming for.
You did. I also changed the lights for those who are watching to green and pink.
You said green and pink?
Yeah, I guess you can't really see it because of the glow.
I can see the green. I do not see the pink. Not from this angle.
Oh, I failed. I'm sorry. I tried.
But it's there. But it's there though.
It's there. It's there.
It's there, and that's what counts.
That is what counts.
Yeah, we're here to be talking about the exciting conclusion of the supposedly last movie in the Wicked franchise.
I mean, as far as the Broadway is concerned, obviously, like that's done. But it'd be interesting to see if they just go full narrative and try to do the rest of the books, or try to do a musical adaptation of the rest of the books. I don't know if they can, have Stephen Schwartz sign on to do all of them. You want me to compose all the books?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's an interesting thought, because they did put. I mean, you think about how much they've put into building all these physical sets that now exist.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting to see, because obviously this was always meant to be. Well, at first it was going to be a single movie, and then Jon M was like, "Hey, we're gonna go over he said, in order to do the story justice, we're gonna put this into two parts." Which I think a lot of people understood that in some degree. And then Universal kind of took that and ran with it, because I have not seen them put so much marketing behind a movie in quite some time.
It's wild. It's pretty crazy. Yeah,
it's nuts. Like even when Jurassic World Rebirth came out the other day, or not the other day, but earlier in the summer, I remember seeing stuff about it, but I don't remember them like really pushing like this hard on a movie.
Not until not until they got the results about the successful box office. Then I started seeing a push for Jurassic World once it started making all the money.
Well, I'm sure I think the first Jurassic World probably.
I'm talking about this one, the most recent.
Yeah,
one,
the most recent one. Yeah, I understand that. But I think the first one they were pushing pretty hard, because obviously this was like they're reigniting the Jurassic franchise.
Yeah, true. True.
But in this case, like, I mean, I think they put a lot of money into it. I think each movie, I think, was about $150 million each.
Yeah, because they shot them back to back. I think it's I think it's been reported it's like over about $300 million to shoot the first one and For Good collectively.
Right,
so like
exactly.
150 each.
So I mean, already with that, I believe the first movie. We can talk about box office numbers later in the show, but I believe the first movie made a little over $700 million, which was already.
Let's see.
It already cleared the benchmark for that 300 million mark for both movies.
Right,
so anything that Wicked for Good was going to make was just an added bonus from there. 756.
758. Yeah, 758, 733.
All right. So if it was 300 times 2.5, 750. So right there, it made 2.5 budget. So it made a small profit. If we're looking at standard, like here's the basic standard of like in order for a studio to make a profit, it needed to make 750 on the two movies. So it already made that back from the first movie. So in this case, anything that this movie makes, Wicked for Good, which we'll talk about later, is just that's all in the pocket, theoretically. If you want to look at it that way. Anyway, Ernesto, tell the people who's starring, who's directing, give them the credits.
So we're reviewing Wicked for Good, the second installment, the second half, as we were just mentioning, from Wicked, starring Cynthia Ervio, Ariana Grande, Jonathan Bailey, Michelle Yeoh, Jeff Goldblum, Ethan Slater, and Marissa Bode. Directed by Jon M. who did Wicked, Crazy Rich Asians, and In the Heights. Written by Dana Fox, who wrote Cruella, How to Be Single, Couples Retreat, and What Happens in Vegas. Also written by Winnie Halsheim, the writer of the Wicked musical book, and this is obviously adapted from the Gregory Maguire 2005 novel Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, which is I think why there's been some speculation of, since we already have this environment already built, they could easily just adapt the rest of the story. But then it's like, do you go the musical route? It's like, or do you go, full narrative? I don't know. It'd be interesting. I think this movie kind of set up an avenue that it really could go either way.
Yeah, and I do find it interesting. Also, something I forgot to write down, that Steven
Schwartz, yes, composed all the music. Yes.
Yes. Steven Schwartz, right?
Yes. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure.
I don't want to say his name wrong. I don't want to come in after us.
I'm sure he's never gonna listen to this, but it's okay.
No, he's listening right now. We got to say his name right. I just know it. I have a feeling that
Steven Schwartz.
Steven Schwartz. There you go. Okay, yeah. He was the
who
person
was in
who
the
wrote
first,
all the music.
And he debut. He was in the first one.
He was. He had a cameo in the first movie. That's
the
right.
Wizard will see you now.
Yes.
Sorry.
But yeah, I think the first movie, and we'll talk about this later, was such a phenomenon. I think it was a huge success as far as like getting the word out there, bringing on the hype, kind of capitalizing on the musical. Even on Broadway, it was selling out shows because of the hype that was surrounding around the movie. And I find it interesting now going into For Good and seeing the reception that we're getting off of this epic conclusion, as well as the prospects of a future installment. I feel like that they've already put so much into this. It feels like it's just like, I'm not sure if it's going to come to the point where they're just kind of trying to milk it just to kind of capitalize on that. But it is interesting. Like I feel like, much like other movies out there, I feel like this, even though this is an adaptation of a Broadway musical, and from written, it's not like a fully original idea, but it came from other things. But I feel like in some ways, as far as the movie world is concerned, this feels new and fresh to a cinematic point of view.
Yeah.
Something that everyone is driving to go to the theaters for, very similar to say like Avatar. Obviously was an original idea from James Cameron, but it introduced such a lavish world that like it demands viewing to be seen in the theaters. And I see like we're seeing that again in this fashion. I don't feel like a lot of movies nowadays can like capture that like, oh, I need to see this world. Like it's so flushed out, and like Marvel and the superhero genre had that upper hand for quite some time. And now we're seeing kind of that kind of like dip down a little bit. And now, the Wicked, I feel like, is taking on that mantle pretty nicely.
Yeah, I mean, the first Wicked was just like a cinematic experience. It was like, for me, it was like Barbie or like Oppenheimer, like one of those things where everybody felt like they went to the theater to go see the thing.
Yes, like this is the thing that everyone's going to be talking about, and it perfectly came out right before Thanksgiving. So get them in while I'm sure it's going to have a lot of great sales coming in for Thanksgiving weekend as we approach that. But yeah, I mean, we saw it yesterday at the time of this recording. Yeah. And
we actually got to see it together, Matthew.
We did see it together. You have the photo?
I do. I'll give me a second. I'm getting it.
Sorry. There it is.
We got the whole family there. We got the whole family together. Yeah, my in-laws were there. 4 out of my 5 children were there. Shout out to my parents who was able to watch the baby, so we can all go see the movie. But it was great. I mean, even my 2 littles, I mean, they did great. Like this was the first time, especially my 5-year-old. Like he's kind of a wild kid, and he sat in the theater from 9:15 until noon when we got out there. Didn't have to get up to go to the bathroom, like nothing. Sat there, didn't like run up and down the aisles. He like sat there and watched pretty much like 90% of the movie. He moved around in the chair a little bit, but he's a child. What do you expect?
Honestly, that's more than because I had to get up and use the bathroom already once. Honestly, I was holding it for a musical break.
You're weak. You don't get up. You don't get up during the movie. How dare you? I'm so disappointed in you.
when I saw Jeff Goldblum started to sing, I was like, oh, I can leave for this.
Wonderful. Like, you know, what are you talking about, man? That's the. Well, we'll get into that when we talk the movie.
I feel like I wasn't missing much when I left. I mean, I was gone for like 3 minutes. I didn't miss much. But he was still singing when I came back.
Man, I don't want to get into it.
Sorry.
You're forcing me into the movie conversation.
All right, we still got a couple of things we want to talk about before we get to Wicked for Good. But you can look forward to our review a little bit later on to the show, or just go to the timestamps if you don't really care about what we have to say next, and you're only here for Wicked for Good. We appreciate any reason why you want to come listen to us, but we have the timestamps for a reason. So go check that out. Go check it down below if you want to just skip to our Wicked for Good review. But if you'd like to hear just us just chit chat about watching movies and TV shows, we're about to dive into a fun segment we like to call What You're Watching. And so we're actually going to start with something that got brought up on last week's episode. There were two things that Ernesto had watched that I did not watch that was on my list, and I had time to watch it. So we're going to do a little bit of a I wouldn't say deep dive, but a little bit more of a larger discussion since we have both had seen it, since we can openly talk about it freely. And one of the movies is The House of Dynamite, directed by Catherine Bigelow, who did The Hurt Locker, and the other movies are blanking right now. But I know The Hurt Locker was the big one she won an Oscar for. And this was an interesting one. It kind of piqued my interest. It had Idris Elba. It had Rebecca Ferguson. Anthony Ramos was in it. Like a couple of notable stars. And yeah, Ernesto, you said that you didn't like it as much because it felt like it was repeating itself.
Correct. She also did Point Break, Zero Dark 30, Near Dark, Strange Days, K-19, Blue Steel.
I forgot that was the other big one. Zero Dark 30 was the other big one.
Yeah.
And yeah, so just in case anyone didn't listen to last week's episode, just like a brief review of a brief review of what you were talking about last week on this.
Okay, so the movie is set up where there's this what I guess they perceive as initially as like a test from another country. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it, but they think it's a test. They find out that this country is sending a nuclear missile to the U.S. And to me, it was like kind of like going through the steps of what actually happens in those events. But then you're getting it through 3 different perspectives, but you go through the same timeline events 3 times with 3 different people, right? But they all end exactly the same. And my take was, it would have been better like if they had all those things intermixed. If we just stuck with the timeline chronologically between all 3 people instead of doing the whole thing start to finish, I felt like it would have played out a little bit better.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with that because I did not know about the different perspectives angle until you talked about it. So at least for me, I was prepared for that going into it, which I knew nothing about the movie otherwise except for what you talked about last week, and as well as I just wanted to see it mainly because Catherine Bigelow was directing it. And I found that tactic interesting only if it paid off, and it didn't. And that's the frustrating part that I had about this movie is that because you're absolutely right, it kicks off, and I thought the first out of the 3 chunks that we had, the first perspective was probably the most intense.
Yeah, it was the most interesting. I mean, you see, if I remember, like they have this room where they lock their phones in, but it's like that initial moment. Like you seeing them go back to their phones is to me that was a realization to them, like, oh, we're gonna die. Like all these safety shit, like none of that shit matters anymore. We're literally gonna die in the next 5 minutes. Like I don't know. That was just so like that was like the first third hit the hardest, and maybe because that's seeing the whole thing. You're seeing the whole thing play out for the first time.
Exactly.
So when you go back again, you're like, oh, okay. And then it's like certain dialogue points. I felt like they held on and hit specifically for the audience to see, oh, we're at this point in time again. I don't know. It just
yes, exactly. Right? And I do feel like the different perspectives added maybe an extra, I would say, an extra like notch on the movie as far as like if we got if the whole story was the whole movie and each percentage like we're getting like a third of a perspective and obviously it reached about a whole. So we got the first third pretty solid. But I don't feel like the other half of that it equaled the amount the intensity that we were given in the first half because to your point, we already know what the outcome was going to be, and they stopped at the exact same point.
Mhm.
So it's not like we got any additional information after that, like after the point that they cut off to go to the next perspective. And you're right, and we're starting all the way back from the beginning. They fast forward a few bits, but I feel like we only got like instead of like a full third, we got like a third of the third of extra information that we were given from a different perspective.
Yeah,
Like
because you're not even given you're giving a few different moments, but it's almost like so perfect example, like they keep going back to this like video call and phone call that they're all having with each other. So
right,
like you already hear what everybody's gonna say. So we're getting the same phone call just from different sides. Like I think
exactly.
once you're in the command center, the one you're with forgive me that I think the say is like that general, and then the third one is the president, Idris Elba. He
Yeah.
plays the president. So like we're on the same call and they were all about to die and like, oh, you hear and it's like you hear them say the same lines. It just for me it just got old really fast.
Yeah, again, the only way I feel like this would have worked better is that if we had some sort of payoff because at the very end of the movie where every point stopped was Idris Elba as the president needed to make a decision. And then he's like, "We're waiting on your decision, Mr. President." And then it just stops and it switches to the next perspective. I would assume that when we got to the president's perspective, we would have gotten the answer that we were building up toward. Because I feel like that's the only reason why you build that intensity. Is like what was like you stop at the decision making. And I would like to see that pay off when we get to his perspective. So that's kind of what I was waiting for. So the fact that the movie ended without really getting a resolution, I think it was more of a haunting ending. But if it really would have hit home, to your point, if we saw that in chronological order. So if we were building it in a clear narrative, like not going back in different perspectives, but if we were bouncing back and forth between all like perspectives at one given time, it basically just comes down to the editing. Like
Yeah.
if this movie was edited differently, because we're not asking for a different movie. This
No.
this this is it could be the same movie, but if we ended and we only saw it once, that the president needed to make a decision, and then the movie ends, cuts to black and credits roll, you're like, damn, that was intense. But because we got that 3 times, that's where to your point, that's where it lost.
You know, you make a really good point. Like that ending is so haunting that imagine going through the whole movie with that anticipation, not just a third of
Right.
it, but like you're building that anticipation all the way into the end. Like the movie, and it just ends. Everybody would have ended like, damn, like I don't know. I felt like it would have achieved what it wanted to. I felt like it was. I felt
Yeah.
like the movie's goal was like to just kind of put people on notice of like how dangerous this shit is and like how on the cusp we are to something like that happening. Like we are a House of Dynamite. Like we're, you know,
Yeah.
we're so close to like blowing each other up and ending the world. But like, imagine only hitting that once and then like that, and then the credits roll. Like, I don't know. That's a movie that would have made you. I feel like it would have hit harder. It would have made you think more. I don't.
Yeah.
It would have achieved its purpose as opposed to. So really, it just goes to show you how important this movie is. A lesson for me. It's like how no seriously, like how important editing is and how important it is that you stack your story the way you want to. Maybe this is what Catherine Bigelow wanted to do. And I understand, like, let's show you the different perspectives, like maybe more focusing on the nuts and bolts of what actually needs to happen through different people, like giving us, and that's why they focus primarily on those 3 perspectives. I mean, it has to have been a purposeful choice. I can't imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah, it
Yeah.
had to be. Yeah. But to your point, I think she had a different vision when obviously making this movie.
Yeah.
But I think when we were both watching it, I think we came out with the same way. It was like, you could have given me the same movie, just chopped, edited differently. And I feel like that end result, that haunting factor, that the idea, like to your point, we are a House of Dynamite. Anyone can just hit buttons and go. Even when we were getting to the president's decision, it wasn't even him making the decision per se. He was being given options.
Yeah.
It's like it was like green, yellow, and red. It's like how much damage do you want? Just keep flipping the pages and point to a number, and that's where you're going for. And even the guy who was over there, he was like, "Well, yeah, you can." He's like, "My personal choice would be this," and it's like that's like lives that you are like kind of in a book, just tossing back and forth. It's kind of crazy to kind of see in that perspective, and I appreciate that movie for giving us those perspectives. but I think again, you could have played out very differently and still achieved the same way. The fact that we kind of got like president, you need to make a decision 40 minutes in, I would then at that point I would assume that we would come to a decision at the end of that. And
Yeah.
because then we technically saw 3 short films
Yes.
all
Yeah.
ending the same way.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
And that I think you're 100% right. This movie would have been edited differently. I think we'll be having a different conversation
Yeah.
about it.
To be honest, if it was edited differently, I would be thinking, well, maybe they should be talking Oscars. Like that's how
Yeah.
to me, like especially like that moment where you were just mentioning when he's talking to the president, like that's such a like we should have built up to that moment. And I just felt so like lost. By that point, by the time we had gotten there, I was already kind of checked out of the movie. So
Yeah.
like the weight of that scene to me doesn't hit as hard as it should just
Right.
because I was like already like bored more or less.
Yeah, because even when like there was a moment where the president's like, "I need a minute," right? Like, and the clock is ticking, and he's like, "I need a minute." And the other times we don't know why he needed a minute, but then when you come back to his perspective, it's like, oh, he needed to talk to his wife, or at least try to get in communications with his wife. And like, okay, that didn't really add much
No.
to that scene, if just by now getting to the third time of why he needed a minute. Like that didn't really answer. That didn't really. I wouldn't say looking for answers, but I didn't really like warrant of like we're gonna wait to the very end to show you that he needed to talk to his wife.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's sure. But like, yeah, I think 100% the editing comes down to the again, it's a I feel like it's a small flaw, but a big one that impacted the way we approach the narrative that was trying to be presented.
I mean, yeah, I mean it completely they're they're set up for the viewing experience. Just everything was shot and put together so great. Like they already
Yeah.
had clear narrative structure that really worked, but it was just the timeline of how they set it up that just kind of threw you off.
Yeah.
Editing's important, folks.
Editing's important. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and I think you're right. I think if it was edited differently, because we're not really seeing much conversation as far as award season is concerned. So, uh, clearly, they're not. Netflix probably purchased this movie for that reason. Like, you can tell that they kind of roll the dice on a few of them and see which one sticks.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this year it's going to be Frankenstein that's
Yeah.
going to be getting the Oscar push
Yeah, we reviewed
from
that last
Netflix.
week.
But this could have been in the conversation. To your point.
Absolutely.
Like I mean, Catherine Bigelow and all these other stars are, this is not their first rodeo onto the award season. So, yeah, a little bit of a like you almost had it type of vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, editing's important. This is a clear example of that. Okay, so moving on to something else that it seems like, and I did some research on it, does have some Oscar contention here, and it's
As
the
it should.
documentary "The Perfect Neighbor" that Ernesto you had talked about. It was kind of getting a lot of talk um, leading up, or I guess once the documentary came out, a lot of people were watching it. It came out last month. Ernesto, you watched it. Megan had watched, and she was like, "You got to watch this." And it's also right in our backyard that these events happen. And what's funny enough is talk about editing. Now, here is a movie that was edited in a way that it needed no talking heads.
Yep.
And it was all reliant. And like there was like a few moments where like the title title cards came up kind of
Mhm.
explaining a few things, but it was very rare that happened.
And it was brief,
It-
very brief.
It's very brief. But this is a movie that was completely edited off of existing footage. And they were like a few establishing shots. Like I saw a couple of drone shots up there, kind of surveying the area, and kind of probably added a few, just to kind of give it the ambiance. So like I think they did have to shoot a few things, but 90, if not 95% of this movie was basically police camera footage, which I don't know how they acquired. If that was like public record at some point, but that's a lot of footage to have in order for them to be in their disposal to to make this documentary. But man, was this a powerful documentary of on a lot of fronts. Like not only as far as like how this movie was like a technical achievement on how the documentary was put together, but also the story that they told without even like pushing any sort of narrative in front of you. This movie just basically showed you the events of what happened. And, you kinda see the whole thing play out, and I don't think the movie was even asking you to make a decision on it, but I think it kind of presented an interesting perspective, and, like, this is what maybe the what this is what the cops see, and now we get to experience that same viewpoint, and then came to our own, like, I guess I wouldn't say, it's, again, conclusion is not the right word, 'cause I don't think the movie was asking us to make a decision on anything that happened, but it just presented an interesting narrative, just looking at it through the point of view of the police body cam
I
footage.
think what was great, and I actually do have an answer for you, Matt. So,
Okay.
the Netflix documentary, look, use Grok to look this up. Netflix documentary, Perfect Neighbor, directed by Gita Ganbir, chronicles a 2023 fatal shooting of Ajika A.J. Owens by her white neighbor Susan Lorenz in Ocala through a largely narrated. Wow, my brain just broke. Unnarrated timeline built from raw pre-existing materials, the core footage, including police body cam footage, and 911 audio calls and interrogation recordings, was primarily acquired via public records under
Mm,
the FOIA Act. So FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, you to know, were attained by their attorneys. A lot of it they hand over to filmmakers. They were granted permission for the footage shared for the production team, and then like the other stuff you're saying, just kind of like the drone shots and stuff that they shot themselves. So yeah, I mean,
yeah.
a lot of it is just freely out there. They just had to ask for it, and they were given it.
Isn't that crazy just to think about? Yeah, we have this narrative we wanna put together, and we didn't really have to shoot anything for it. It's just it comes down to just pure editing.
Yeah,
Like, they're
yeah,
just putting all this
exactly.
footage together and to create that own narrative that, in my opinion, was very unbiased.
Yes, and I think that's why it's so effective. Because sometimes the talking heads tend to be like they have their you're talking to a person, they have their own feelings, their own they have their own feelings towards whatever the issue or the situation is, and unless it's like a doctor explaining something, like you're more of getting somebody's perspective for you to gain perspective about something. Whereas this is kind of like, here, this is a thing that happened. What do you? And
Yeah.
then at the end, it's kind of like, they show you her funeral. You get that, but it truly makes you think about different laws, and this is primarily about stand your ground laws and just how they apply and those things and how they happen. I mean, seeing her interrogation like that, to me,
Wild.
that shit was wild. That was the wildest
Wild.
part. Like, I mean, even the body cam footage, like, just kind of went on the neighborhood, like, so much time leading up. I think they went years back,
Yeah.
like, that they just had issues with this lady, with each other back and forth, and kind of leading up to her death, and kind of seeing the court case play out. It's one that definitely sits with you.
Yeah, no, it really does. Like, I think the one that even brought me to tears is when the family is finding out that she didn't make it
Yeah.
from the yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the timeline was. That I was a little bit fuzzy on that. I don't know if she ended up passing away in the ambulance or if they got her to the hospital. Or if she died on the way to the hospital. It's kind of unclear. But you see this the perfect description of this documentary for me was just raw. Like,
Yeah.
you're seeing this unfiltered, raw narrative kind of play out, but you're also seeing the immediate reactions of these people who just, and specifically the kids who just lost their mother for something as silly as, I believe it was, an iPad. And whatever this woman was kind of going through her mind, that she felt the need to have to shoot the gun through the closed door. It's insane to kind of see how that happened, but also it kind of eye opening to say that this stuff happens more often than not.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because also the movie never really presented it, or the documentary never really presented it in a way that this was a race issue, even though you can assume that it was. But I don't, there's a lot of other factors at play here that could assume that it was not all about a white woman shooting a black woman. Um, I don't feel like that was 100% the cause here. It was.
I think there was definitely a little bit of that, because there's a part
I'm
where
not saying there isn't,
no,
but
of course, but I'm saying, like, there was a point where I think either the investigator, I believe it was the investigators, they asked her about using the N word, because I think there was
right.
a point where she called the kids the N word, and she had some like bullshit answer to
Yeah,
get
she
to the
said. Well,
cops.
she said it might have slipped. And
Or
she's like, she.
but even her even when they were like, do you, because they're, I mean, and kudos to those investigators. I mean, I think they set her, not even like they set her up, but
They,
like the way
I
that
mean,
they
they
asked
kind
her the
of did.
questions, they're like, so you think it was about this time? We actually log everything and we know the exact time. So you said it was 10 minutes. It was actually 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then she's like, well, I don't know, the perception of time and this and that and this and that. And I understand that, but there's no excuse. There's no excuse for what she did to this poor lady. Absolutely not. So
No, and it was funny because they did, like, I think that was like the smoking gun right there.
Yeah.
That's like literally you sitting down this investigation. You're like edge of your seat, like, oh shit, like,
And she
no,
just
like, no,
she gave
no
some
shit. They
weird
have
and she
records.
gave some weird ass response. She's like, I just got so scared and then I went to go wash my hands. What? What do you mean? What a weird thing to say. What a weird thing to say that you did. Even if that is what you did leading up to killing this poor woman. Oh, I just got so scared and then I looked and I go, fuck, my hands are dirty. I gotta go wash my hands. Like that's what I think when I get scared. Let me go wash my hands.
Yeah, that's the instant reaction here. Yeah, it was riveting, and also it was heartbreaking to kind of see just see it all play out. And we come from a news background. We work in news. Let me fix that. Gotta get back on focus. It's still.
You're fuzzy,
What is
man.
Yeah, what's it doing?
I don't know. What'd you do?
I don't do anything. It lost my focus. I have to like bring it back.
Bring it back. There you go. Are you?
Is
Yeah.
it back? I don't think I am.
I don't know.
I'm trying to like
Sorry for those
have
who
it
are listening.
refocus.
Matt's trying to fix.
Oh,
his
there it is.
camera.
We got
He's
it.
back now.
We
He was
got
a
it.
fuzzy Matt for a little bit.
Yeah, I was fuzzy that for a little bit. Okay, now we're back. Yeah, it was like I said, like we come from a news background and we see this stuff on the news all the time. And from the newsroom, we can desensitize. That's not what's the word.
You
The
said it right. Desensitized.
yeah, like our viewpoint because we're looking at it from like, yeah, this is what happens, in the community, and we're reporting on it and all that stuff. But to see it in that perspective, it's heartbreaking. Like that it's happening, but to see it in that, especially when when the kids find out and like they just sink down, and like that's obviously an appropriate reaction. And then when they told, it looks like their father or some sort of other legal guardian, and the way that he was like, "Hey kids, let's gather in." He's like, "I'm going to talk to you guys. Your mother, she's not coming back." And he approached that with such grace and like kind of get everyone together and like, I'm gonna hit you with the reality of the situation. We're not gonna prolong this. We're not gonna lie to you. Like, this is what it is. And just to see that unfold is like, no, and they said it before, no child should have to see their mother die that way.
Yeah. I mean, no
And
child
the
should have
way
to-
that even how we got to that point of her, getting shot was, it just felt like in no way it needed to get to that point. Not even close. Like
Yeah.
the reason for any of that was just extremely uncalled for. And to your point, the investigators really like that investigation and that kind of seeing that footage was in, it was crazy to kind of watch that and see her responses. And then she was also refusing to be detained.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
you're going to jail, and she was like, I'm not sorry, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. And like her processing the reality of that situation and basically just refusing to accept, as if she can just go home because she's refusing to go to jail. Like that mindset, it
It
was
was
shocking.
it was really interesting because it was almost if like she just like you said, like she just was trying to come to terms with reality. Like I'm not going, and you can just see the deputy and the investigators. It's like, okay, come on, you don't want to do that. It's like,
Yeah,
you
and
don't
they
want.
and they were also very patient with her too. It's like, hey, we can do this the easy way. I really would prefer you to kind of stand up and walk out of here. But if you are not allowing us to do that, we will have to use force to get them there. They were doing their job to the letter.
Yeah,
And eventually, she cooperated. But I was fearful for a moment that she just wasn't gonna accept that, and then we would have seen something a little bit more physical, a little more, brutal for her to get out the door. Um,
I mean, she would have deserved it. I mean,
fair.
I'm
That's fair.
trying very hard to be neutral about this, but I mean, what she did was wrong. and
Yeah.
now you're resisting arrest. Like, bitch, you deserve for me to yoke your ass to jail. That's what she
Yeah.
deserves to happen to her. Unfortunately,
But I do feel like there is some like, I don't feel like the documentary presented it in any way, shape, or form, just the way I perceived it, was that I feel like she was also going through something. I do think there was a little bit of racism involved. That is 100%.
hundred.
That was
Oh
100%
yeah, of
there.
course, yeah,
100% there. However, I do think there was some sort of mental issues that she was also having as well, to assume that like she was fearful for her life. I can't. It was hard to tell based on her reaction if it was a bit or if that was genuine. But clearly there was something going on, and I don't feel like it was 100% about race the entire time. I feel
I
like it definitely played a part, but like, it was not the 100% the reason.
yeah, I think like just in general, she was just like one of those people, and you've lived around that like, they don't want their shit touched, like they don't want
Yeah.
you anywhere on their property, and then on you being racist on top of that makes it like exacerbates the issue because now
Right.
she looks at you and then she's looking for you to mess with her. So like she's seeking out the issue. I mean,
Yes.
the investigators even told her, said, "Did you tell those kids to go get their mom?" And then that's when you shot her, and then that's when you shot her through a
Right.
locked door. So obviously you knew that she was coming, you know?
Right. And then also like she was like putting up these borders around her property line, which was not her property line.
Correct.
Like they were like the only thing that she owned as far as and she was renting was her patio.
Yeah.
Like the grass and everything. And they kept saying that neighbors said we can play around here. It's a large open field. So like the only thing that and none of this was justifiable, but the only thing you can get slightly annoyed at is if they're being too loud. But as stated multiple times, those are kids being kids in the middle of the day. This
Yeah.
wasn't like they were like, horsing around at midnight. It was an acceptable hour to go around outside and play football. And it just so happens to be on a large field that your patio is facing. But like anything else was like a lot of it, 100% was just like, it was her. It was her problem, and then she created most, if not every problem that was there, and then it ended up leading her to go to jail.
And it's all about perspective because you sit back. If I were to sit back and I saw kids were playing in this open field, I would be fucking ecstatic. Because you know
Mhm.
what? I would much rather you be playing in this field than going around and doing bullshit and causing mischief in the neighborhood. Like,
Right.
and these are not kids being bad. They're just kids being kids. Close your door.
Yeah.
Go put a movie on. I mean, you see that shitty place that she had all set up. Like all shit everywhere, and like it's like
Yeah, it's
just
not like she was living a very clean, and
exactly
like when they went through the house, it's like it wasn't like well, neat, and organized. It was like stuff
no.
all over the place.
Like get your shit together before you start worrying about everybody else. Like go turn
Yeah.
a movie up. Just go somewhere. Maybe you needed to probably she was like a recluse too on top of that. So it's like she was always home. She was always
Yeah.
home, always watching to see, oh, these kids when they get home, I already know what's gonna happen. Yeah,
Right.
kids are gonna go play outside.
Yeah.
Because they don't want them cooped up in their house.
Yeah,
It's very unfortunate.
it's very unfortunate. It's a very tragic story, and I think that the way that this was put together was done so well to
Yeah.
kind of push this narrative and also push the message that at the end of the day, the only message that this documentary was really pushing was this like an example of showing the stand your ground laws and how it can be used in some case. Like this was a case where she ended up, the person who, the woman who committed manslaughter did go into jail and now is currently still in jail for her crimes. But I think the documentary was also illustrating that other people don't go to jail because they were issuing the stand your ground
Yeah.
law. And it could be a very similar situation where that person who shot and maybe killed other people got away scot free because of that law. And I think that was a very hard message that they kind of put into place once we saw everything unfold.
Yeah. And then no, yeah, I agree. And I do think, I mean, it's just depending on how you feel about it, whereas they didn't try to be biased, but they just try to show you like what this law could do. Because there is grounds where it could happen. Because if somebody breaks into my house, I'm gonna stand my ground. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I mean,
it's either
that is
it's either you or my family, and unfortunately, my
Yeah.
family lives here. So, and this is our house. So, you come in my house unwanted, then things are gonna happen.
right, right. And I feel like that's in a case where it is necessary,
Correct.
and that's why it's there.
A life-threatening
That's what the law is
situation.
there.
not through a locked steel door.
Right. Right. It was extremely well put together,
Yeah.
and a very, very tragically what happened. But I think in all accounts, it got the message across very well.
Yeah, this is
And
one that
so
if you watch documentaries, if you got Netflix, you should definitely watch this. I think it's a great documentary. It's just so well put together. It also like in just additionally, I felt like just a respect for the officers and the investigators involved. I just
Mhm.
felt like they all did such a fantastic job handling her and and just kind of handling the situation as it continued to unfold until
Yeah.
unfortunately her untimely death.
Yes. Yeah. And I 100% agree with that. All right, so let's move on to things I've been watching. Ernesto and I, we've been sharing a lot of things, but in this case, for the next few is the stuff that I've been collectively watching. The first of which is Gen V season 2. I just wrapped that up. A really solid season
Yeah.
of Gen V. I know Ernesto, you used to, how far did you get? You said about halfway.
Yeah, we're like 4 or 5 episodes in. We got to go back and finish.
I think it ends really strong, and I think what this show continues to do very well is the fact that it's a companion to The Boys.
Mm,
Like, there were a lot of cameos that we got, a lot of characters that came from The Boys making cameos into here to kind of flush out that world. And like, in a way, it felt like an additional season to The Boys,
mm,
whereas like we're not adding anything too new that won't affect the season, but we're adding a little bit of nuggets for the fans to enjoy, as well as pushing that story along, like separately, but as well as kind of very like I wouldn't say slowly, but like in little pockets of the show, we're expanding the world of the boys. That is nice context for fans who watch all, but doesn't require necessary viewing if you're just the person who watches the boys.
mm. Okay.
And I think it does a really good job of giving us entertaining story because I really liked the story that they had in season 2. Um, and I thought the ending was really strong. And I thought they ended it like the very last shot ended in a way it's like, oh, I can't wait for the next season of The Boys to see how this continues. And even the creators of the show was like, don't expect like from the ending is like, don't expect to see these characters become a forefront or a main player into season 5. That is not what we're doing. This is still like Butcher and Homelander's show, but you probably will see them intermingled within the show. There's not going to be a prominent like very similar. They're probably going to be a cameo
Yeah.
in very much like after season 1 of Gen V. We only saw like the two kids at the end of season 4 of The Boys very briefly. So we as the audience know who they are, but we're not giving them extra story beats on top of that, and we will recognize it when the new season.
My thing is, I think my one complaint was that in the beginning of the season, I felt like they focused on Chance's death. Like, I felt like we drew that out like longer than we needed to for
Yeah,
this character who died, who the actor actually died in real life.
they his character is seamlessly living on through the other characters and the actor. They pay a lot of respect to him and the character that he was. And I think they were able to showcase that through his father that was introduced in the first season. And I think he had more of a prominent role because of the passing of the actor. And so I think he was kind of filling in the shoes of some of the scenes that maybe he would have done, but now his father is kind of stepping into a somewhat similar role in some beats, and they're kind of letting that story kind of live on through him. I didn't mind it as much as the season went on. I understood what you meant from the beginning of like, yeah, we're really just like pushing the fact that the character and the actor died. The character died in the show, and they're kind of like really highlighting that, and they kind of bring it up a lot. But I think over time they kind of were able to squeeze it in organically while pushing the story that they were trying to push.
Mm, okay.
Generally, so I don't think it was like I can see where you were coming from and where like okay, we're just like nonstop talking about it. But I think they found a happy medium somewhere in the middle,
Mm.
and like I don't think that character is going to be forgotten. I feel like we're going to keep bringing him up.
Oh, okay.
But I think within like good reason, like it's not unwarranted
Oh, okay.
uh,
Okay.
in some degree. But like I said, I like where they were pushing for the season. So far it has not been renewed for a season 3. I think the creators were saying that it all depends on the viewership of season 2. and if they're going to continue it. However, if they ended up no longer coming out with another season, I would hope that they would try to do something in The Boys, maybe not to trying to like complete their story, but I feel like if we never see those characters again, it's an okay stopping point. But you can tell that there's a lot more they can go off of. So I'm not sure how far they would continue this. I feel like 3 seasons is good.
Yeah.
Especially now that after this next season of The Boys, season 5 is over, that's it. That's the last season. So I feel like it's kind of weird if you extend Gen V like further than the final season of The Boys. So
Unless the ending of The Boys opens to more stories within the universe, and then The Boys' first 5 seasons is like the main storyline.
yeah, and then this like the in this case would be like an epilogue
Yeah.
after the main storyline if they did Gen V season 3.
Yeah.
But I hope they get another season. I really like to see this show continue. I think it's doing really well. Of like again, it's one of the few shows that it's a spinoff, but I see it's more of a companion. The amount of like cameos that we're getting to kind of flush out this world makes it feel more real and more like okay, like this is more of a part of a larger story rather than it feeling like two separate things happening within the same world. This case, like it definitely feels connected, but it doesn't need one for the other to achieve.
Mm. Okay.
But yeah, definitely. You know, whenever you get a chance, finish up Gen V. I think it's worth finishing out this season. Moving on to a movie that, based off the trailer, I was never going to watch. To be honest with you, this is a movie called Ballad of a Small Player. It stars Colin Farrell, and the only reason why I watched this movie was because it was directed by Edward Berger, who did All Quiet on the Western Front
Mm.
and who did Conclave last year. And I was like, this guy has done great movies the last 2 years, and I'm gonna give him a shot. Even though the trailer, I was like, I'm not buying the trailer, but also the trailer could just be misleading.
Yeah.
And I was right. The movie wasn't great. I knew I wasn't gonna like it, and literally I was like passively watching it as it was going through. And what's funny was that here's a movie that was shot really well. Colin Farrell acted the hell out of his role. Like it was an interesting introduction to his character.
Yeah.
But then as the movie went on, I just was trying to just figure out the point of this story. And I was just bored.
Mm.
I didn't feel like it was really it wasn't intriguing to me at all. Uh, it was like basically this guy has a gambling problem, even though he says he doesn't have a gambling problem. And I feel like the first 30 minutes of that was like him really going on of his wits and like just trying to find the next big score. But then it introduces like this other story that kind of completely lost me, where he's like he takes an interest of this woman, but then he's like he said, I can be better. I just need one big score to do better. And then we don't see her again at some point until we do. And then at the very end, there's this twist that I was like, felt completely unnecessary. And I'm all for a good twist, but this one felt like you didn't add anything to this movie by giving us this quote unquote twist at the end. I just feel like that, we have a beautiful looking movie and the actors did their job. It's just the story that just was not interesting. The presentation just wasn't.
So, question: how long into the movie did you know that you did not like it?
Probably, I would say maybe 20 minutes
Yeah,
into
it's
the
usually
movie.
it's pretty quick for me too. It's usually like somewhere in the first 10 to 15 minutes where I'm like, I can't get into it. And then
Yeah, this
sometimes you're at a point where it's like, well, I've already invested this much time into the story. I guess I should see how it ends.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to like stop watching a movie because you just never know.
Yeah.
It's rare for me to just stop. It's like I like to the point where like I don't care how it ends. I'm gonna stop it right here, and it's really rare that I do that. Once like I look at the trailer, I make a decision, I put it on my list. Once it hits the list, is more or less like you're committing to it. That's
Yeah.
just my own personal like like not agreement, but like that's my own rules that I set for myself. Like once it like you thought about it. Once you put it on the list, you're gonna give it a shot, no matter if it sucks or not. Like
I respect that.
something pushed you in order for it to go through, you're gonna follow through. But there's always those few movies where it's just like, damn, I like, especially if it's long too. It's like if it's 2.5 hours and I've already got an hour in and I know I'm not gonna like it the rest of it. It's like I don't want to commit the next. I can use that 90 minutes on something else.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. I guess because I'm just older now, and my time to watch is very very limited. So it's like once I realize I'm done, I'm like, nope, I can't. It literally doesn't matter how this movie ends.
Yeah, and it's also rare for me. It's like I can stop watching a show more easily than I can stop watching a movie. Obviously, the movie is a shorter runtime.
Hmm.
But for a show, at
Oh
least in
yeah.
my mind, it's like I got to commit to at least the season, and I
Wow.
got to see how the season ends. And if I really don't like it, I'll stop after the season. But in my head, it's like I got to at least give it the season in order for me to make if I want to continue to the next season.
Wow, that's good commitment, man. Because sometimes,
Yeah,
and I guess it's like the same thing a movie. I get like half. I give it to like episode 4 or 5. Usually, like then I'm like, by then they've kind of established their characters, and we're kind of
yeah.
rooting into the story, and you're starting to learn what the big thing that's gonna happen. If by episode 5 you haven't gotten me, then I'm done. I can't. I
You see,
unfortunately don't have the time.
we see with that logic though, most shows are about 8 episodes. So like, if I already made it to 5, I might as well just do the extra 6, 7, and 8 just to see how it ends.
But that's
And
let's
then
say an
from
hour
there, and
long
then but
narrative. That's 3 hours of your life. That's like two.
that's
That's
fair.
literally 2 movies you could have watched instead of whatever this bullshit they try to spew at you.
Now I will say though, I have stopped shows after the pilot. Like
Yeah,
if
yeah.
the pilot didn't hook me, I was like, eh. Like if it had to be like a really bad pilot for me, like I don't care because I've also seen bad pilots, but also great shows.
Okay.
But I think there are also other factors at play when it comes to a show because it takes a minute, not a minute, but like I'm more willing to just put on a movie, less of a commitment. But when
Mm.
I commit to a show, like I've already done, especially if it's a new show, it's like, okay, something here has hooked me to watch the show. And I feel like I got to give it a little bit past the first episode to kind of find its footing. But it's rare that I will stop after the first season, or sorry, after the first episode. But it's also rare that I won't finish out the season to some degree. I'll stop watching shows. I stopped watching many shows after the first season.
Mm.
It's like, yeah, it was fine. I gave it a shot. I have no care to watch season 2, 3, or whatever. Another show this is a bad example of was that I watched the first season of Better Call Saul when it came out,
Mm.
and even though everyone was raving about it, I never got back into it. And that's a show that I know it's really good, and I know people are raving about the show, and some people are saying it's even better than Breaking Bad. But it's
Mm.
like that commitment now. It's like I didn't commit every season by season, so now when I say I'm going to start Better Call Saul, that's 6 seasons worth I got to commit to, in
But
order to see the
but
full story.
when you went back and rewatched the first season, what was your because you went back and rewatched the beginning, right? Or you just started from season 2?
No, I have yet to restart the show. Period.
What?
Like
Matthew?
I saw the first season when it came out. And then after that, I was waiting for season 2 like everybody else. Season 2 came out, I never watched it, and then now we're 6 seasons deep and I never watched any of that. So like if I were to start it now, I would have to start back from the beginning because I do not remember what happened.
You're playing yourself, man. You're missing out on fucking excellent TV. Like,
Yeah. As well as, this is another big one that's like this is on the top of my list right now.
I'm so
And I just
disappointed in you because I don't know if it's going to be bigger than that one because I'm so disappointed in you right now.
sorry, let me rephrase. Better Call Saul is not the top of my list. Succession is the top of my list.
Equally as disappointing that you haven't
Yeah.
watched either of those.
And I feel like I'm more willing to watch Succession because it's only 4 seasons.
I mean,
Whereas
they're
Better Call
both
Saul is 6 seasons.
you're good. They're equally good. Like they're both just
Yeah.
as good. They're like to me, Succession and Better Call Saul are probably on the same level.
Like it's kind of in the same way where like when I committed to watching The Righteous Gemstones, I
Not comparable
finished
to those two shows.
different shows. But to me, I wanted a comedy 30 minutes, and that fit that bill. And I was willing to sit through 4 seasons of that easy than I would say 4 seasons of Succession for whatever reason. Also, I think was able to churn those out more quickly. I'm not saying I need to burn through shows, but like in my head, it's like I can squeeze in a 30-minute something, rather than, and then also it was a very silly 30-minute something rather than a very serious 1 hour or something.
Yeah, and no, those are pay attention. The thing is like you can passively watch Righteous Gemstones and not miss a thing. It's like
Yeah.
those shows, those are pay attention shows. That's put your phone away and watch TV for an hour.
And that's 6 seasons of that. So like you're kind of pacing yourself. But I feel like that's the commitment that I do. Like once I commit to the show, that's the only thing I want to watch.
It's so worth it though,
Is
man.
that.
It's so worth it. You're missing
I'm
out.
sure I know I'm missing out. There's a lot of shows I'm missing out. But anyway, going back to A Ballad of a Small Player, I think I think this, for me, the fault was the story. I was never hooked on the story, and that kind of tarnished my, like, my whole viewing experience from there. Even though it was shot really well, like the aesthetic was great, acting was fine, direction was kind of there, just really not an interesting story I really cared about. And the only reason why I watched is because I appreciate his previous work, and sometimes it surprises me. The same reason why I watched, House of Dynamite. Catherine Bigelow got me there. Like I like seeing her movies, and then sometimes it pays out, and sometimes it doesn't. That's kind of like the beauty of seeing all these movies, that you kind of following a creator and kind of seeing their work. And now, further down the line, if we watch future, say Edward Berger's movies, we're like, I have an informed opinion on his filmography. Um, and so that's kind of where we go from there. But anyway, I won't really recommend Ballad of a Small Player unless you really like the director or really like Colin Farrell. If you really like Colin Farrell, he acts like a crazy person. So if you want to see that, that's the movie for you, I guess. But yeah, moving on to I went to their theaters as well. I had a great weekend. I saw
see.
so many things.
I'm very
Um,
jealous.
Say it again.
I said I'm very jealous because I definitely wanted to see this one.
Yeah, this one was very entertaining. Like just had a quick 5-star rating. I give it a 4 out of 5.
Wow.
I
That's pretty
think it
solid.
checked. I mean, first of all, is Edgar Wright, and I love his movies. Like Baby Driver was great. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World was great. I wasn't a huge fan of like his trilogy of like Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and At World's End. I believe he did that trilogy with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed those movies. They're fine. I thought they were funny, but I don't enjoy them. That's, to me, that's not his, like, Edgar Wright's top.
See, I love Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead. Those are two for me. Those are classics. But I get you.
Yeah, I feel like I enjoy some of his other movies a little bit better. The movie, I think his most recent one was like, I think we had talked about it too. I'm trying to remember. It stars. I can see the poster. I can't remember the name.
Got you.
He did. Oh, The Last Night in Soho. That one was fine.
I don't think I saw that one. You saw that. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. Again, it wasn't my favorite. I think his last big one that I really enjoyed was Baby Driver.
Yeah.
And then Scott Pilgrim, for me, those are like the top two. But Running Man it brought energy. Like that movie was just full on energy. I thought the setup was great for like the introduction. Glenn Powell, I've seen him do better. I feel like this was
Wow.
not his strongest performance. However, he's a leading man, so like he was still entertaining to watch. But I've seen him do, like, Hitman, for example, that came out last year. I thought his performance was way better in that movie than this movie. But I think the world that they presented and like the environment, and there was also some social commentary in there and some satire in there as well that I appreciated, and a couple of twists and turns. Not like a huge number of them, but it was like it brought fun. Like as far as like a big screen action movie, this did the job.
Mm.
Like I was entertained from start to finish on this journey. And there was a few things that kind of like I was kind of like okay about. Like the rules of the game was a little bit weird for me. But nowhere that I feel like this movie was like unnecessary. Like sometimes like you get to the point where like I can see like in somewhere this movie could have been somewhere like in the Jason Statham like some movie like Death Race, for example. Like there were some moments in that movie and some other Jason Statham movies, like especially like with Crank, where he just goes insane off the walls, and it's like that seems like a little too much. This movie never crossed that line. I think it was very much a easily digestible action, kind of action comedy, not really comedy, it's like action, pure action movie.
I kind of got
Action
the
adventure,
I got
action
the
thriller.
comedy. I kind of got the comedy vibes, like especially from the trailer when you see Michael Cera like electrocute those guys with his super
Oh,
soaker. Like to me, that was ridiculous. Or there was another part where like Glenn Powell like throws a grenade. So it's interesting to see that it didn't get wacky or like crazy because the trailer gave me like wacky action vibes. Like that was kind of like my initial thought from it.
well, I mean, those things did happen, and I guess in some ways kind of did feel a little wacky,
Or like he go
but
like an explosion, he's like flying from a train or something. Like the force from the explosion, like he like lands on a car or some shit.
something like that. He landed in the river, but
Yeah.
yes, that did happen.
Where like he fly like he looks like he's flying as the explosion. Like to me, I was like, oh, that's like crazy. To me, that so when I hear like crazy wild action, like that's what I think of like
Well, you know what's funny?
unrealistic action setups.
You know it's funny because I felt like now that I'm thinking about it, Bullet Train
Yes.
felt that wacky action vibe.
Yeah, like
I
what is it? Aaron Taylor Johnson is just
Yes,
hanging on the front of this fucking bullet train, punching the glass. Like, okay, that's what. Yeah, okay.
but I feel like it had hints of that, but I don't think it ever crossed that line. I feel like in some weird way, in its own world that it's set up, it was grounded. Like everything that I saw was, uh, I used the word believable very loosely.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't
within reason of what they gave you.
exactly. Was within reason, and also they kind of also made a comment on AI a little bit as well,
Oh, interesting.
which
Okay.
I was like, okay, like this, like there's some bones here. Like I appreciate. Like I would easily watch this movie again. It's a fun movie to watch. Yeah, I had a great time in the theater with this one. I don't want to give away too much, but I think from start to finish, it gave me a complete movie. The ending, a little like couple notches down. Like the final like climactic like third act like climax was like it was good, and then like the like kind of like the falling action was like it's okay. Like this is your typical like ending to an action movie. Like I feel like it didn't really like make that any more memorable. I feel like it just kind of went along what you would expect how this movie would end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it didn't like didn't make any big swings. But it's fine. This movie didn't need to be that. But I thought it again, it had some social commentary in there. It had a few satire things in there. Like I think overall it completed its mission of giving me an entertaining movie. And yeah, I enjoyed from start to finish on this one. So 4 out of 5 for me.
All right. All right. Yeah, it's definitely one I want to check out when it comes home or comes to streaming.
Yeah, it came from Paramount, so it will be hitting Paramount Plus. Probably, if I had to guess, probably like probably in January,
Okay. I'll hold you to
most
that.
likely. He's like TikTok, January's hit. I
TikTok.
don't see it.
You lied,
If they
man.
really wanted to push it, they could have it in for Christmas. But I think it's too soon. I think it's way too soon. The movie just came out.
Yeah.
So you're if anything, maybe February. I'll say February.
All right.
More of a more probably most likely a February. Lucky if it's in January.
Okay.
Uh you know what? Let's just throw March in there while I'm just talking months.
Yeah. You know, why not June? June of next year. They really want to extend that window.
Actually, sorry, if you don't mind going back for a second,
Yeah.
can you look up the box office numbers for The Running Man before
Yeah.
we get into Predator Badlands? I do want to talk about that because I feel like this movie was so entertaining, but yet nobody went to go see it, which was a big shock for me. And I don't understand why. I feel like between Edgar Wright and his filmography of like he has a cult following of the movies that he goes and puts out, as well as Glenn Powell being like this rising star. You look at the numbers. What happened? Just very quickly, let me get
It's
the
like 16.5, for opening. Yeah, 26, right? 26, almost 27,000 domestically, 21,000 internationally, 48 worldwide.
this movie cost $110 million to make.
That's rough.
That's a hard loss for this movie. And to me, it's just a big question mark. Like it fits the bill of your standard action movie coming out around like this came out November 14th. So it's like right around the holiday season. Not close to it, but like this is another offering you can go for Thanksgiving. Obviously, a lot of people are gonna go see Wicked. A lot of people most likely go see Zootopia 2. A lot of family movies involved there. But like for the people who don't want to go see those, this is a great option for those people. It's like your standard action movie. And the fact that it opened at 16 million and then at the time of this recording 26 domestically, 21 internationally, 28, 48 worldwide. That that's shocking to me. I don't see how why this happened, but I guess I mean this is also like a remake of like obviously a Stephen King adaptation, a remake from the Arnold Schwarzenegger
Yes.
version. Yeah.
Yes.
Back in the 80s.
Yes.
Uh 80, no, 1987, yeah. And so yeah, I figured this is like it has the recipe. It's all right there to be a box office success. And for whatever reason, tanked. Which could be a reason why it would be home sooner rather than later because it's not really doing well in the box office. Like typically that's when studios will put their movie out on VOD very quickly within the first 2 weeks. So they can recoup some of the people who didn't want to go to the theater, but get some of the money in the VOD market before like the hype kind of runs down and then eventually goes to streaming. But yeah, I was kind of just shocked with that. I just don't understand that at
Well,
all.
might
But I
be
guess
home. Might be home for the holidays. We'll see.
oh, back to December,
Back to
baby.
December.
But yeah, I don't know, just something I wanted to point out because I felt like that was an interesting like nobody went to go see this movie. And I feel like that's kind of shocking. Clearly the international market didn't really care for it at all.
No. And plus, there's just so many
and
other good movies that are out right now.
yeah, and this movie came out the same weekend as Now You See Me, Now You Don't, which opened number 1 at the box office, which a lot of people were speculating that Running Man was gonna hit number 1 and Now You See Me was gonna hit number 2. The fact that Running Man hit number 2 was a big shock for a lot of people as well.
Yeah, that was one
Um,
I also wanted to see that one as well.
so have I. I'm waiting for Megan on that one because she also wants to see it. So otherwise, I probably would have saw it too. I would have saw 3 movies that day, and I was right there. I could have walked in,
You thought about
but I
it.
said I thought about it. It's like you saw 2, so that's good for the day.
But you're loyal.
Um,
You don't watch without. That's like a cardinal sin. You don't watch without your
yeah,
partner.
like I got the go ahead to see Wicked for good before we started even this recording. Otherwise, they're like Ernesto, we're gonna have to wait a week.
Which would have been
um,
fine because I respect it. You know, you wait for certain things with your partner. That's just kind of how it
yeah,
is.
that's how it is. But yeah, so the other thing that I watched, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, was Predator Badlands, and this for me, it's a 5 out of 5 right there.
Damn, I'm telling you, that trailer was epic. I wish I could have caught it in the theaters to see. I really wanted to see this in Dolby.
It's so good. Like I was not prepared for how good this movie was going to be.
Ah,
I was shocked. I was like, damn, there's like there's like solid action, solid prep work. Like the build up to this was great. There was comedy in here. Like I laughed multiple times in this movie. Elle Fanning did a great job. She was kind of like a little bit of the comic relief.
mm.
And every time you heard the cow I forgot the name of the predator, the Cowgie. I think that's definitely wrong. But they have the species that often he would refer to.
Mm.
Like he never spoke English for the audience. Like he was like it was subtitles for him every time he spoke. And he was having a conversation with the synth, which was Elle Fanning, and like for her, she was using some like translator for us to uh so she can understand him, but they never did that for the audience. We always got subtitles
Mm.
for that. And I just thought that the story that they presented was so solid. And also like basically what you saw was the predator become the prey in this environment,
Oh
which is
shit.
a complete reverse of what you would expect a predator movie to be. Like it was solely about the predator is not hunting. He is hunting, but like typically he is referred to as the bad guy in most movies.
He's usually the apex.
Exactly, and he's hunting the other apex. In this case, that's kind of what was happening, but he was proving it. And there's a much deeper story to that. But he was proving it to his clan that he was worthy of joining the clan. So he had to go and basically, in his mind, like kill the biggest apex predator no other predators could kill.
Yeah.
And he went to that Predator Badlands area to then do that to prove that he deserves to be in the clan. And that's kind of like a loose idea of where the story takes place. We meet Elle Fanning along the way and a couple other factors. And I like that they introduced this world and gave us a different perspective. And then we also kind of learned from this world and then they use it for the finale. for the climax. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Like
Ooh.
taking everything you learned to then establish it for your final act. And I love that because then to me, everything was there for a reason, happened for a purpose. I understood motive. I understand why this action beat had a purpose and not it wasn't for action for action. It was like it felt appropriate for the narrative that they were telling for the next scene. And I love that. I love that about it. And then we got to the end and I was like, this all of this is solid action. It's really, really good. And again, it was funny. There was multiple moments where I kind of laughed out loud a little bit. There's also one part, I'm not gonna tell you what it was, but there was a point in the movie where Elle Fanning was talking to the Predator and he was like, was that a joke? Like, did you just say a joke? And like that's not something you typically hear, obviously, from a character like that. It had heart
Yeah.
too, because you can see that the Predator was trying to prove something to a certain degree. So you're kind of rooting for him to go along with his mission, his goal.
Well,
And there's also other factors in play as well.
he became a protagonist. I mean, this is like the first one. It sounds like he is the protagonist.
Exactly. And you felt for him. And it was established in the beginning of the movie, like it had emotional stakes already from the beginning. And so with all those factors, and I feel like it's kind of very similar to Terminator 2, where like you have the Terminator, which is like here's your villain in the first movie, and then you flip the script and you give us like here's your protagonist, and now we're following along his journey. And what's very funny, going back to what we talked about last week with Megan 2.0, very similar idea. And now you have Megan being the protagonist. Not all the beats 100% worked out for everybody. Clearly, it was not a box office success. And like a lot of people didn't like the genre shift. And I didn't mind it, but a lot of people didn't. In this case, you kind of flip the script on what we know a Predator to be, and you make him a compelling character. And for that, because it did it so successfully, and I was entertained from start to finish, that's why. That's why it earns my 5 out of 5. Like it surpassed my expectations, and you gave me such a great story.
Sounds like it's going to be part of the collection, man.
It is, and I don't think I own any Predator movies. Like I think this is easily the best Predator movie I've seen.
But would you put Prey as a second?
Yeah, exactly. Yep, Prey is definitely a second. I loved Prey.
Prey was fantastic.
It was so good. And then Dan Trachtenberg did like some of my two favorite movies this year was this and the other movie he directed, Killer of Killers, that was on Hulu, the animated movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
If you haven't watched that, go do yourself a favor. That movie was incredible. Like the action alone was amazing.
Okay. All right.
Like
all right.
Dan Trachtenberg understands his role in these Predators movies. So if the next movie he doesn't, if it's not a Predator movie, fine. But the next movie I want to hear him say is Predator versus Alien.
Ooh,
Or
I think
Alien
there's
versus
rumors.
Predator.
I think there's rumors about them, possibly doing that. I mean, because the Alien franchise is kind of coming up now, and the Predator franchise is kind of coming up in the same fashion.
It is, and I think Dan Trachtenberg needs to spearhead that because he's been doing a fantastic job with this franchise within his now 3 movies that he's directed. So.
Yeah, I think he understands the property, and I think that's what we love. We need the director, whoever the visionary is, we need them to understand the franchise.
Exactly, and this guy does. So keep doing the work, sir.
Yeah,
you have my respect, and he's a great director too. Like he also did 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was also a really good movie.
Facts, yeah, that's a great movie.
So yeah, like he gets it, and whenever you do have a chance to see it, it's gonna be fun. It's a fun watch. Anyway, that's all the stuff that I've been watching. So now let's start talking about stuff that we both collectively watched, and the first one being Bad Guys 2.
Yeah, I thought this was a really cute movie. I thought it was really cute. I mean, kind of like an extension kind of plays off the first one a little bit. I think to me it's just as good. It's just a silly, good kids movie. I also liked how they the name of the material was MacGuffinite. I thought that was kind of cute. And I started laughing, and then I was, it caused for me to have a conversation with my wife. It's like, why is that funny? It's like, well, and then I was like, oh, well, this is because, like, do you know what a MacGuffin is? And then we kind of got into the conversation about what a MacGuffin is. So it was cool. It was a cool movie to kind of like turn into like a learning experience for like the kids and like learning what that is. And I don't know, it was good. I really enjoyed it. I'll definitely go back and rewatch it. It had a lot of cool moments. We had Dominique Fishel, I think that's her name, who was the main. Who was the Phantom Bandit?
Yes,
from Peacemaker, also from
Yeah.
Orange is the New Black.
Wow, she's not even top billed. Dude. That's so strange. You guys just found my character.
She should be top billed. I mean, she was like
Okay.
literally the main antagonist.
Let's see here. I'm scrolling quite a bit. That's crazy. She's the last one on the credit. That's so wild. Danielle Brooks.
Daniel Brooks, way off.
Yeah. Yeah, she played the main. Unless they didn't want to keep her casting a secret, that's typically why they would put those names on the bottom of the list. But I mean, I didn't see much of the secrecy here.
Yeah.
I also thought it was interesting that Natasha Lyonne played the bird and Maria Bakalova played the pig. So like they got some heavy hitters here for
It was great. I mean, it was really funny. I thought it was really funny. It just like the whole love thing between the snake and the bird was just fun. It was just hilarious.
it was so
It
silly.
was so weird.
Yeah, to your point, I had no interest of watching this movie. I saw the trailer and I was like, I like the first Bad Guys. I don't need to see the second one. It seems like just your standard kids movie. Nothing wrong with it. Just I didn't care to watch it. But then when I saw the overly positive reviews around it, I was like, what's 90 minutes gonna hurt? So I gave it a watch, and yeah, it's a fun watch. I think very similar to the Running Man in a way of like not by story by any means, but mainly just the energy that it brought. Like it was like start to finish nonstop energy that this movie brought. Um, it's just very high paced and and the story is pretty solid too. Like I had like very little issues with this movie, and I think it did its job really well. And what I don't remember though is if people saw it. I feel like this movie kind of came and went pretty quickly.
It did.
But
It was kind of like in and out of theaters.
yeah, so like I feel like people. Let's see. The movie was an $80 million budget at $238 million worldwide. That's a small profit.
Yeah, not bad.
That's not bad. I think it needed to make just about that, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, 80.5, looking at 200 mil. So yeah, a little change there. Definitely got boosted in the international market too at uh 155 million internationally. So yeah, not too bad. With a $21.9 million opening, that's a pretty solid return from a low opening like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
And just for the second movie in a franchise of a kids film.
yeah, and this is another prime example of like a movie kind of like a sleeper hit in a way. Like it made a small profit at the end of the day, but still, I mean, $238 million, 230 yeah, $238 million, nothing to scoff at. That's pretty solid when your budget is rather low. That's
Exactly.
more that's more than the Running Man can say right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And now, actually, since we're on the topic, since we're back on that, you mind? I'm curious now with the Predator Badlands box office because the fact that it was so good, I'm curious to see how well it did in the box office. Let's see here. It had a $40 million opening, which was the highest grossing Predator movie to have it. That's the highest grossing opening for a Predator movie, which is kind of crazy to hear that at 40 million. But $76 million domestically, 83 internationally, 180, 160 million worldwide at a Predator. What's your budget? With a budget of 105, so not quite a profit there. 2.5. It needed to make 260, so we're about 100 million off. So not quite the success they were looking for, but it's a shame. I hope they don't like look at this and be like, okay, people don't want to see this. But it made money, just not profitable money. So that's a shame. But anyway, but yeah, Bad Guys 2, pretty solid. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely one we'll have on rewatch in the house. Streaming on Peacock. So check it out.
You can stream it on Peacock. Moving on to After the Hunt, another movie that brought from the director. That was like the big draw for me. I want to get his name right. I think it's Luca Guadagnino.
Oh, Luca Guadagnino.
Thank you. I was not even close. This is this is coming off of, I believe, a huge success from Challengers that he came out last year. He's also the director behind Call Me by Your Name, which won the Oscars. And yeah, I love Challengers last year as a very like highlight for me. One of the like one of those movies I think about sometimes, and I thought it was such a great movie. This one, however, very dialogue heavy.
And I like
Very
dialogue heavy. I'll be honest, Matt, I saw about half of this movie and I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm done. It just kind of, it was just kind of weird. I don't know. It just kind of dragged for me a little bit. And I love
Yeah,
Ayoda Berry, Julia Roberts. She's great. I mean, Andrew Garfield is great. There's a couple of moments in the movie that I thought were good. The subject matter is interesting. It's just, I don't know, the delivery for me. I'm always hit or miss on his movies anyway.
yeah. I think you kind of nailed it on the head. The subject matter was interesting. Basically, we're seeing after. I'm assuming the title after the hunt.
It's a weird
It
title.
seems
It is a
it's a
weird
weird
fucking title
title.
for what happens, for what they're talking about.
Yeah, at very beginning of the movie, it was established that there seemed to be a sexual assault between Andrew Garfield's character and
Ayoda
Ayo
Berry.
Edebiri's
Yeah.
Ado Edebiri's character. And then I'm assuming the hunt, meaning coincidentally the predator, the predatory nature that Andrew Garfield had maybe presented. And then this is after the predatory hunt, the fallout after the hunt.
And
Um,
to me, it kind of, the way from, and I didn't get to finish it, so you'll have to tell me, but
yeah,
that the way they laid it out and from what I was getting from Ayoda Berry's character is like, they almost seem like you don't know. Like, is she lying or is he lying? Like they did.
right.
So like, it's almost like after the hunt, it's like, is she hunting for something and he's hunting for something? Because they made it a point with, you see all the way on the left hand of the poster is Julia Roberts. That's her husband. These two go to her to try to help them resolve this issue. Andrew Garfield, he's a peer, so he's looking for her to vouch for him. And Ayoda Berry's like looking to her to kind of report and use her as a support system. But it was interesting that her husband was like, "Why do you care about this mediocre like person who's like who just has rich parents, and that's the only reason like you're talking to her?" And then the scene I really did enjoy was when they're in when they're all having dinner together, and he just starts grilling her. It's like, "Oh, tell me about your dissertation." Almost
Yeah,
like almost like he was annoyed because that whole scene plays out. He starts playing music, and he's like in and out, like
yeah,
very like kind of drilling her on what she is, almost to like showcase to his wife that like, you don't need to listen to this person. Like, she's
yeah.
not a serious person. Like, you need to stop what you're doing. And it almost like he was annoyed with her existence. I don't know what was your. I don't know how do you end up finding out what happens in the end of what actually
No,
happened? What?
no, you don't. No,
So
you
you're
don't.
like,
And I think that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the movie. I think.
but do you get
Like,
that? Do you get that continued perception of her as we progress on?
correct.
Okay.
You truly don't know what happened, and you're just going off of the he said she said scenario, and they presented like they presented scenarios where we don't know who is lying and who is telling the truth. We just know that we're in this predicament right now. We're in this situation right now.
Mm.
And so then Iona DeBerry's character took this to the press and she got a lawyer. Andrew Garfield ended up getting fired. And so like the standard stuff that you would typically see in these scenarios play out in real life. And it turned into a bigger thing, which I believe the husband of Julia Roberts did not want to be like, why are we even entertaining this? And I think the beginning of this movie kind of introduced this high class
Yes.
like environment of like we are, and I think where the husband was coming from is like we are above this
Petty
this
bullshit.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to involve ourselves.
I
with
liked
that.
him. Out of everything, I didn't, as much as I didn't care for the movie, he was like my absolute, every time he was on screen, I just liked him. I just thought he was funny. He always had interesting things to say. And like, he was just like a person who just kind of calls it as it is.
Yeah, and he definitely continued that through the rest of the movie. And I don't know. I feel like I understood the message that he was getting at again because we don't really know exactly what transpired, but much like us reading it on the news, or much like the audience and the bystanders and like the people who are like inundated with this type of information, you're making a call on someone's character, like someone that Julie Robert has known for quite some time, that also even loves her. Like Andrew Garfield's character obviously has a thing for Julia Roberts' character,
Oh yeah.
and so like you have this relationship with somebody for so long, and then for her, like she couldn't even fathom that he would do something like that. But then the more she thinks about it, it's like, well, maybe. And the movie continues like, well, maybe he could have done it. And then you get to Edward Berry's character, where like her story isn't 100% consistent. So then you start questioning whether is she telling the truth. And then, spoiler alert, this like kind of like the big twist of the movie is that apparently, and I wouldn't really call it a twist, but Julia Roberts was in the hospital. I think they established that she was getting like these ulcers
Mm,
throughout the movie. Like she kept collapsing. So this one was a big one. So she was in the hospital. She was talking with her husband, and she was like, "Hey, remember when I told you that when I was younger, I got sexually assaulted by like my parents' friends?" And I don't think they ever talked about that in the beginning of the movie.
no.
But then she confessed to her husband that's like, "Hey, I lied about that. Like he was actually pushing me away, and we did kiss, um, but he didn't want anything. I was pushing it forward, and then because that person started dating somebody else, I wanted to retaliate, and I made up this story that he sexually assaulted me."
Mm,
So now we get more context of Julia Roberts' character in this wider situation that is going on, of like, who can we really trust in this scenario? And the movie never established. We just saw the outcome, what happened.
yeah.
We didn't really see, like, and we'll never know what truly happened. But I think that's kind of the point of the movie, which
Mm,
that I appreciated with. The only and this is the big downside of the movie, is that it felt drawn out. It was a slow burn, and it was more of a thinker piece that you really had to go into his style in order to get all that information. But it was also like extremely boring,
yeah. It's
like
two and
of a
almost 2.5
presentation.
hours. It was like almost 2.5 hours long. It's like
Yeah, it was
220, I
it
think,
was
the
a
runtime.
it was a long way to tell that story.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't feel like there was 100% payoffs on that. And then you also have like, and in some cases, like the award season baity things that you do as a director, where like the music is a little off kilter,
Hmm.
and like you have like these weird like, and those like what is happening? Like what's going on
How
here?
did that
And
go
like,
again, Matt?
like something along those lines. And so yeah, there was like they did all these things where it's like, I don't think like I feel like the presentation here could have been a little bit more, it's weird to say, but upbeat, more
Mm,
digestible. But it was one of those like you have to like thinking pieces where we're not gonna like spoon feed you anything. We're gonna give you scenes and you have to like kind of think about it. And yeah, it's kind of one of those movies.
all
It
right.
wasn't bad, but it was like you really had to be in the mood for that.
Yeah.
And if you're not, you're just gonna be falling
And
asleep.
you have to be in the mood for his movies.
Yes. Yeah. So like I felt like that like Challengers, for example, had energy to it.
Correct.
It had a very like interesting through line.
You guys in
This through
there
line was not that
screaming.
interesting.
You guys in there. Come on.
Come on, yeah, come on!
Yeah. It's like, whoa.
Also, they have tennis action in there, so who doesn't want tennis action?
Exactly.
But this one, it was just talking heads the whole movie. It was just them talking from one scene to another, and like you are just kind of piecing together the information. And I guess at the end of the day, you're come up with your own conclusion if you want to like believe one character over the other. But I think it was just presenting a scenario that I feel like 100% didn't lead to anything, as far as if the audience is more satisfied with a solid conclusion. More so just be like, we introduce a whole bunch of scenarios and then we want you to think about it. And that's what this movie was.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. It was okay. The last movie to talk about, a movie just hit Netflix, was Train Dream. Another slow burn, Ernesto.
I have to say though, this is one I kind of enjoyed. It was, it was different. It was shot in like a 4:3 format, and it's just shot cinematically. It's just very beautiful, and
Yeah.
it's a very intimate movie, which
Mhm.
kind of showcasing you like this guy's life journey through America as it's changing. There's a part where he's a logger, and he gets sent out and he gets to do chopping trees down. Beautiful performance by William H. Macy. I thought he was a great addition. I thought he was a great addition to this film. I thought he he added so much more. This movie is just really sad. It's just very heartbreaking.
The way I see this movie was like honestly, like I think back to the Frank Sinatra songs, like that's life. Like that's what I looked at this movie. Like this is someone's life in like this. Kind of, it's a tragedy, really.
Yeah.
It's a tragic story that's unfolding, and we're just seeing him at a certain point of his life and how he got here, and like this is the early 1900s, and then at the very end, they're like, and this is and then he passed away, and this is what he liked, this is what he did, and he had a wife and kid that supposedly is still unknown, but supposedly burned down in a forest fire in their home. That's probably the likelihood that happened. Whether or not he believed it or wanted to accept that or not, he believed that his family got away. But to a certain point, and many years had passed, that he never really, obviously he never got over that, and still waiting for his family to return, which they never did.
I also thought what was interesting when they were building the bridge, the train bridge in the
Mm,
beginning of the movie. First thing, this guy who he's cutting a log with, this Chinaman who he's with, they just grab him and they fucking just throw him off the bridge. And actually, I love the way that they set it up because you don't ever actually hear the impact or anything. You see him get thrown, and then it's like a straight cut. And I don't
yeah,
know, it just added a lot of weight to it. And then you could obviously you see that death has weighed on him his entire life, whether he felt like he needed to do something or just the fact that he was present and watched this man get grabbed and fall to his death after he was working. It's not like he didn't do anything. And then that
yeah,
same setup, the train, the bridge is being built, and then the guy is on the track, and he's telling all these guys, "Wow, you guys did such a great job. You've done so much for America, this and that." And he's like, and 10 years later, they built a concrete highway, and then that was obsolete. It's like all that
yeah.
work you put in was meant for nothing. And it's an interesting aspect that kind of highlights like technology today. Like something
hmm
that is so great today is obsolete tomorrow. And like no
Yeah,
matter
and I
how
think
much time people put into making that technology or making a certain thing, is that it's easily replaced by the next best thing.
yeah, 100%. I mean, technology is a great example of that. Of like, I mean, for the most part, look at our cell phones, for example. They're meant
Correct.
to last probably 5 years at best. More often, you probably switch it around 2 to 3 years
Some
that
people
you
every
have
year.
your phone. Some people, yeah, so you're right. Some people every year, like they go in themselves into a program and they want the newest tech, and they're willing to dump it after the year's over, and they buy all new things just to be up to date with everything. And that's for some people prerogative. I feel like most people probably hold on to certain things within the 2 to 3 year time frame, and then for other pieces of technology, you're probably looking at about 5 to 6, 7 years
Hmm.
on a certain piece of tech. But really, after that, it starts diminishing its quality, and then you want something new because things start slowing down, or the tech that you have can't support the newer stuff that's coming out. And in this case, they kind of presented that in a way of like as this logger, like of him like chopping down trees and building bridges, and like this is how he was able to make a living. And it's kind of crazy, like he built this wooden bridge for the train, then it was like you said 10 years later, like you did what you did for the time that you were in. Like that's the job, that's the thing that was going to push forward. And then ingenuity kind of keeps moving forward, and the thing that you work so hard on, like you said, becomes obsolete because something better and more convenient was built for the common people to just drive around. I think another example of that was when they started using chainsaws to cut down the trees, no longer his axe.
Great
And
example.
and then
Yep.
and I think he even said it. He's like, after that day, I realized I was no longer going to be a logger. Like for him, what he knew was no longer the way. And like ingenuity has caught up to him that he was not willing at an older age to kind of go with the times. Therefore, he rather would have bowed out and kind of, in a way, kind of go into a different way of living as well as a different retirement, and like a different job. And he started just like they bought a horse, and then he started traveling, like giving people rides around the area.
Well, I think he was still haunted by the fact that he was not there when his wife
Mm,
and daughter probably died, and
yeah,
actually we don't know. We assume that's our assumption because there's like a whole
yeah,
scene at the end where this little girl comes and he saves her and then she runs away again. But we don't know but I think it probably, if I had to guess, it probably wasn't, but he was so obsessed with
yeah,
them possibly still being alive that it could have been that he wanted it to be her more than it probably was her.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's more in the lines of what happened.
but I think he wanted to be home even before that, but then seeing his wife and child die and his house burn down and him not just coming home to that being burnt was
Yeah.
so mentally scarring for him that it was easy for him to leave the logging life once he found a good enough reason. And plus, he saw his friend Arn, who was played by
Yeah.
William H. Macy. You know, he watched him die. He was there, and then I think him recounting Arn with that guy, with the other older gentleman, and
Right.
him, like, it seems like he did remember him at first, but then it was very clear towards the end that he was like pretending to know him. And like, oh yeah, Arn, like, and like he's like, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person that forgets or has so much blocked out because I've been hit or I've just been away or
Yeah.
whatever is the easiest coping mechanism. Like I don't want to. That was kind of like my takeaway from that. Like he didn't want to end up like him. So that was almost like the nail in the coffin. That was like, all right, I'm done here.
Well, wasn't he asking about William H. Macy's character?
Yes.
He's like, "Oh, how he's doing," and then he's like he knew that he didn't realize that he had died, and so he lied to him and
Yes.
said, "Hey, he's doing fine."
Yeah, he's like, well, I don't want to. It's almost like it's almost like you could hear his thoughts. He was like,
Yeah.
well, I don't really want to upset him. Like, I don't want to, like. But if I remember correctly, wasn't the guy who he was talking to? Wasn't that the guy who was giving the speech when he did die?
I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about?
But-
Because in that
Yeah,
scene,
yeah,
there is a gentleman who I'm pretty sure was the same man, was saying how much of a friend he was, and used to talk about the things that he said. So it's like, man, this guy who gave this speech about him, about how much he cared about him, and he doesn't remember that he died. It's like, what happened?
Right.
Like, it's like not only what happened to Arn, like this is a good reminder of what happened to him, but like you're a reminder of what could be, and I don't want to be that.
yeah. Like this could be me in a few years.
Yeah.
And, and he was like, I mean, I think there was a lot of stuff that happened in that scene within the chainsaw and the interaction kind of, and made him decide, be like, hey, I think we're gonna lead this life and go something more simpler in a way. And then also, I just found it interesting that like they kind of toward the end of the movie, he's like walking through the city and kind of seeing stuff he's never seen before.
Yes.
And I feel like that was like he was so secluded into his environment. I think there's even established in the beginning of the movie he never really been more than 40 miles away from his home.
He never saw the beach. He never saw the actual coast.
Right, exactly. And so in this case, like him seeing the city is like this new world that he's never been introduced before. Like him going and seeing like plays and like I think one of the last things he was doing was that he paid $4 to go ride an airplane.
Yeah.
Like he's like get the view from the birds. And so like he hopped on the plane and kind of gave him a whole different experience that he never would have seen otherwise in his whole life because he's used to the life that he was living. And like again, it's just like this is also props to Joel Egerton. Like this is a very quiet performance from him. Not a lot of dialogue coming from his way, but I felt like he exuded this sadness. This man who had a very small glimpse of happiness at one point in his life, and that he was haunted by that, and almost maybe in a way never wanted to experience that happiness again because that just gave him tragedy. So then he's just kind of just walking through life, making and small ends meet, and then eventually just passed away. And it's a very sad movie.
It's very sad, but I would say his performance was amazing. I thought he was fantastic in this movie, and I could see him being nominated for this role.
Yeah, I can definitely see. I know this movie's not really in the conversation at all. At least it isn't yet.
At least not for like picture, maybe not best picture or anything like that, but definitely I think for acting, he's got to be up there somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like he has a real shot for acting, and there's also a I thought the cinematography was beautiful.
Beautiful, and especially and just by putting it in that 4:3 aspect, I tend to like it when they do that. It's kind of like a just call back to like old TV, and it just putting more focus on the center of the frame. Like obviously the 16:9 is beautiful, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's nice when they do this.
Yeah, and I think in a way it kind of complemented the movie. Like I don't think it needed it, but I think it kind of maybe kind of fit with the times, I
Yeah,
guess, to have
yeah.
that, that aspect ratio. Um, but yeah, overall, it was to me, it was a slow burn. I'm not gonna lie, like it was a slow burn to watch, but much different from After the Hunt. And this is obviously these are polar opposite movies, but the thing is that I feel like both movies were slow burns. However, this was 90 minutes, and the other one was like two
220.
and some change.
It's 220.
Yeah.
I was like, oof.
So I feel like, so even though this was a slow burn, I feel like it was able to tell that story more effectively and obviously more quickly.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
than the other one. And I don't know, I feel like the more I think about it, the more I understand some of the themes that there was presented. But I'm gonna be honest, at the time of watching this, I was like, this movie needs to end, man. But even though like I appreciate, excuse me, some of the themes that they were coming out with. Excuse me. Um, yeah, I even though I appreciate some of the themes, like I'm appreciating more as it's kind of resonated with me after watching it rather than in the moment
Yeah.
watching. Because I did feel a little slow, but I mean, I did take away probably more than I thought I was going to.
It was
At the
better
end
than
of
I
the day,
thought it was
and it
going
was
to be. And I was really surprised by his performance.
yeah. Let's see. Okay, this makes a lot of sense. Um, this is the same, not direct. Is this a he did a movie called in 2021 called Jockey, which I'm not familiar with. But more importantly, he was the screenwriter for Sing Sing, which is a movie that was nominated last year
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
with a Coleman Domingo. So he's definitely feeling. He was one of the yeah. He got story credit for Sing Sing, and then now this is like his. I think his like bigger writer director feature here. He also wrote it with two other people, and it was also based off of a novel as well. I thought the narration was interesting as well. Like, we never really saw a narrator, but I thought that was an interesting touch to kind of be like, "Hey, here's this." Basically, just like, "Hey, we're gonna follow this man through his life, and I'm gonna kind of talk you through some of these points on it." And
And
I
it
thought that
wasn't
was like,
him. And it wasn't him detailing like his life. So I thought that was kind of
no, no,
interesting. So it's another person's perspective on his life.
yeah, it felt like a story. Like we
Yeah.
were we were, we were watching a story play out.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I'll be curious to see if this gets any award attention. But I thought this was another solid movie. Like
Yeah.
it's
Solid
very
Netflix
quiet,
film. Yeah. Yeah.
very quiet, but it was effective. I think the silence worked very well, and his performance, Joel Edgerton's performance, complemented the silence in this movie. And like nothing, everything was here just kind of like you were like a passive viewer
Yes.
watching this man's life, and I
Like
felt that was also interesting.
fly on the wall and like all the horrific things that happened to this poor man.
Yeah, seriously. And he took it like he's like, yep, like you can feel the sadness.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, you felt it. But yeah, so as we tonally shift, and that's the last thing, right?
Yeah. That was it. That's the last one.
Okay, all right. So now we're gonna be diving in, as we stated earlier. That's what we got timestamps for. We are diving in to our spoiler review of Wicked for Good, the epic conclusion in the two-part Wicked saga. Again, written and directed by Jon M. Chu. Ernesto, your thoughts on the film?
Yeah, so I enjoyed this movie. I would say that I enjoyed the first one more, and then thankfully, Matt, we got to see it together, so we kind of did like a little mini powwow after the movie. And I think my main takeaway is that the first one had these. It was just a grand spectacle of a musical. Like it was a
Yeah.
true spectacle of a musical. It was very, very true to the original Broadway. Where I felt like this was more movie than it was musical. We didn't really get these massive ensemble numbers. There's a few here and there, but I felt like overall, like the theme of this was just a lot darker, which we intended. We already knew going into this one that the first one is going to be more light and bubbly, and whereas this one is just a much darker. It's just a much darker end with everything that's going on from all the setup in the first one. And I think you said it well when we were in the theater. Like they had all these setups, but maybe most of the execution, like it felt like we were just kind of going from beat to beat. Like it was just like, hey, this is the thing we set up in the first one. Bam, there that is in this one. And it felt like we were just kind of like jumping from thing to thing of things that they needed to check off to do on the list. Does that make sense?
And Yeah, that makes sense, and it definitely. It's funny because when we were walking to this movie again. We saw this on a Monday, so it's the weekend after. So a lot of people have seen it. It made a lot of box office money. We'll talk about that later. But when we were going into it, it was a really 50-50 split on the audience reaction to this movie. Either people really liked it, or people really did not like this. And I feel like after watching it, the biggest like takeaway that I saw from this is that this is not the same movie. So I would understand if people that loved the first movie, did not know the musical, and were expecting the same vibe in part 2, you didn't get that.
No.
So I can understand being like, "Oh, man, this movie sucked," because this was not what you expected it to be, because it was not the first movie. However, this was a very different movie. So we knew that going in, and we knew this was gonna be a much darker story. So I think that expectation kind of was, like, solidified for us going into it. However, I think where my problem lies more was, like you just mentioned, the execution on some of the story beats that was very much introduced in the first movie. Like, even Madame Morrible and her turn to villainly, her, like, evil role. And I feel like there was just a lot of added stuff in here that wasn't really pushing the story along
Mm,
at all.
yeah.
I think you made a good point. Like, the opening scene of the movie was her, like, they were actively building the yellow brick road, which was kind of cool to see, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. And then we saw, like, Cynthia Erivo just kind of storming by and, like, saving these animals who are being enslaved of doing labor. And then I was like, and that's me. I'm now the Wicked Witch of the West. Well, not really, but, like, she was kind of like saying, like, I'm here as your savior. And it seemed like there's a certain point in the movie where they didn't really want her help. They wanted to go and hide because
Oh yeah.
the
They're in the
establishment that was being presented right now.
they're in the No Place Like Home number.
Yes, exactly. Which, if you don't mind looking this up as I continue talking, of what were the new songs? Because I honestly do not know what the new songs.
Let's see. I think it's "Girl in the Bubble" and "A Place Like Home," but I'll look for you.
Okay, thank you. But yeah, I feel like that there were a lot of prep, a lot of build up, a lot of setup in the first movie. That as I'm watching this one, I just, like, to your point, I just felt like we were checking boxes. Like, if the people who are familiar with the Broadway musical, like, these are the beats that have to hit. And the one that bothered me the most was with Nessa and Bach
Mm,
and that storyline. I understand in a play setting, like, if you're watching this on stage, like, there's still a lot of story to be told. The focus is on Glinda and Elphaba, but, like, when you decide to put this movie into 2 parts, and when you actually have a movie now, not a play, I feel like you have some liberties to maybe expand on certain storylines that maybe didn't have time for a stage production.
mm.
And I felt like we went in line with the stage production of those 2 characters specifically, which I felt like, and much similar to how I felt like when watching part 2 of the play, was that, like, this was so quickly. We established these characters pretty well in the first part, only them to have a few scenes kind of leading in from Bach to being the Tin Man, and then never seeing him again. Up until the point where he's with Dorothy, was like, "We have to kill the witch because he turned me into this thing." And it's like, well, we could expand more on that, clearly. Like, we could have expanded more on that. And then really with Nessa, of her becoming, like, this obsessed, like, almost enslaving Bach in order for him to be with her,
Mhm.
and then kind of feeling guilty about, like, the way that she's treated her in a way, but also very selfish to him in a way. Only for him, the last time we basically see her was when Bach storms off as the Tin Man, and kind of begrudgingly, and she is shocked of what he turned into. The next time we don't even see the character, we just see that she's like, this the storm is coming, she's wheeling through Munchkin Land, and then the house falls on her, as famously seen in Wizard of Oz. And we never get that perspective. The stakes of that, this feels extremely downplayed.
Especially since yeah, I agree with you. Especially since there's just so much setup for their storyline in general. Like,
Yes.
and then she just like we get an overhead shot of like it looks like you're the house coming down on her, and that's literally the
Right.
last time you see her on screen.
Yeah, and I understand because the play did it too, of, like, we never really showcased scenes you would otherwise have seen in The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Like, we never saw Dorothy's face, first of all.
No.
We never saw her face, and we never saw scenes that we would have seen in The Wizard of Oz, as I just explained. So even there was a point in the movie where Glenda's like, "Okay, bye, Dorothy." Like she's going with her dog and she's going down the yellow brick road, leaving Munching Land. And then she was like, "Yep, just follow the road, just one straight." Like a little comedy bit
Yeah.
there. Someone was like, "Just get out of here, get out of here." Um, and then like Elphaba comes into play, and she's like, why'd you give that poor girl her shoes? Like, well, I gotta tell her something. It was like you're like we're seeing a different perspective of a classic that we've known before, but what was happening, and I had to remember like this is not the same movie. But I had rewatched Wicked and I had rewatched The Wizard of Oz in preparation for Wicked for Good. And the storylines for The Wizard of Oz and Wicked do not line up.
No.
Like
No.
it just doesn't. It's not a clean cut of like a different perspective on certain things. And that one was in particular, and there's other moments in there that is not a clean cut. Like if you were to watch both, he's like, "Oh, this was actually happening behind the scenes." Not quite.
The way
Things don't line up there.
I think the other one is the castle and how they know where she is.
Yeah, that was a little weird. But yeah, but again, going back to like the house falling and like I feel like that if we got introduced to the character of Nessa and the Wicked Witch of the East, like it never really like she had her own song,
Mhm.
literally called the Wicked Witch of the East, the Wicked Witch of the East. But it's like you never tell us that she had abilities or powers or a witch at all. She just calls herself that with no context whatsoever, only for her to just her downfall is what we expected, which is the house falling on her. And I just feel like I wish we would have gotten a little bit more moments with that character, with the movie being 2 hours and 20 minutes. Like we could have established that connection, or even when like with Bach and Nessa, like we saw a little bit of that, but that could have been flushed out more. So when he does turn into the Tin Man, it hits harder than because it felt very quickly.
I mean, literally, when she's in the middle of the song and she's floating in the air, and he tells her she wants to leave, and then all of a sudden she reads the Grimoire, and
Yeah.
then he starts becoming the Tin Man. And that's kind of like, oh, it kind of happened. I kind of wish we would been able to watch it a little bit more because I
Yeah.
do think the whatever they created for him seems like a mix of CGI and practical effects. I thought it was really well done. I thought he looked really good.
Yeah. I thought he looked great. We never saw that transformation. It was obviously behind closed door. We were in Nessa's point of view at that point.
Yeah,
But this was like Elphaba reading a different spell to kind of mask the spell that her
No.
sister did.
yeah, correct. She's trying to fix her mistake.
Right. And so like I guess the only way for him to survive is if we're made out of tin. Sure.
Yeah,
But then when you watch The Wizard of Oz, you're like, well, then how did you get stuck here for a year in the position that you were in? It doesn't line up, which I'm trying to not make that a point when
well,
I'm like when talking about this. But if you're trying to make this as a parallel to The Wizard of Oz, there's a lot of inconsistency.
yeah, I get that. But then, then you could say, well, it's going off of the book. That's
Yes.
basic, which we would have to look to see what the book says about what happens during those times.
Sure. And so I'm trying not to fault it too much because this is an adaptation of a book and a stage play.
Yeah,
So it's just kind of following the rules of that. I just feel like that if we had an opportunity to change that a little bit, if we wanted to be more in line with the movie. I mean, clearly they decided to go with the silver slippers instead of the ruby slippers, as illustrated more, I believe, in the book than it was in the in the
in the show.
in the movie.
Um,
Uh,
so I will say, yeah, the looking it up, the two new songs is "No Place Like Home" by Cynthia Erivo and
Okay.
"Girl in the Boba" by Ariana Grande, which is kind of fitting. So they each kind of get their own song that kind of showcases their position in the movie. I do think, as far as like musical numbers, and I mentioned it when we reviewed it last year that I was really looking forward to "Thank Goodness" because I think from the Broadway that's my favorite song. Because I think as far as Glinda, to me, like you get a showcase of like where she is mentally. Like you hear her like putting a show on for the crowd. You get the notion of her relationship with Fiyero, and like I really just love the end of the song where she's like questioning about what happiness is, and
right.
and then the crowd comes back in, and then she puts the face back on, and then like to me, like that song is just so beautifully written, but they changed it for the movie. I feel like they altered it in a way where you don't get the same emotionality from that song, and maybe it's just the way that it played out, just because the setup's a little bit different, and you get this quieter moment between her and Fiyero, which I actually really liked. where
Yeah.
like you basically see that he doesn't want to marry her. Like it's very plainly seen. What is she says something about aren't you always happy? And then he says something that doesn't really answer the question, but also answers the question. Like it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, like he's not saying like, oh, I'm not happy or I don't want to do this, but I forget what he says, but it was a great moment within the song, but I feel like they missed the emotionality that the Broadway version of the song was able to put out.
Yeah, and I feel like you have a more recollection of the Broadway more than I do because I've only ever seen it once. I think you said you've seen it multiple times,
I've
right?
seen it multiple times, and
Yeah.
I've listened to the Broadway soundtrack more times than I care to admit.
Yeah. So I have less to like really like freshly compare it to. But I think you made a good point about Ariana Grande's character and Glinda's performance. Of like you see it in her face. I think this was a great showcase for Glinda, more so than the
Yes.
first movie.
Oh, I
I feel
agree
like
with you
she had a
100%.
lot more moments to shine and kind of see a little bit more of her perspective. So much so that we actually got a little bit of a backstory on her younger self
Yeah.
when like she was also just trying to make people happy. And she's like, I just want to do magic. And like that's what makes her happier. But the that's on me. That's my bad.
Sorry, I was like, that shit scared you.
Bing! That was the universe saying you're right.
Yeah.
Uh,
Magic.
but but um that was the kind of what I took away from like a big part of that movie was like because they showcased like her a little bit of her backstory more so that they did that at the more for the first Wicked movie where we got Elphaba's backstory
Yes.
as a child, Glenda more so, and she just wants to learn magic, and we kind of see that as she grows into adulthood of like that magic of like seeking magic is still there, but she's never happy because it's never real. So like she is putting up a front, but what she truly wants is to basically be Elphaba, to
Yes.
actually have that power, but she can never have it. So here's like this fake facade that everyone thinks she has it, and she knows that she doesn't have it. But she's getting the love from the audience, or from the peers and for the people around her, but she's not actually achieving anything.
Which is it?
And I
Which is
think
a really interesting parallel because all Elphaba wants to do is be Glinda. They each have half of what each other wants. Like
yeah,
she wants to be able to put out her magic that she just has within her to the world, whereas Glinda she can be that person, but she doesn't have the magic within her that Elphaba has. They each have half of what each other wants. Like kind of like almost like a yin and yang.
yeah, I think that's a great way of looking at it, and I think that is what kind of makes these two characters stand out so much, and it makes the story compelling. Is Glinda and Elphaba? That's the whole point of this series. The story is the conflict that they both have together, but as well as like as one needs the other, and like they want to be together, but then the forces that be didn't really uh it won't allow it based off the context of what's happening with the wizard. And like even at the end of the first movie, you see that Glinda was like, "Hey, just follow what the wizard says and follow what they say, and everything will work out for you." And you see Elphaba being like going against that, like we can't do that. That's not right.
Hmm.
And we see Glinda not happy, but happy enough for getting what she kind of wants. And like you were mentioning earlier, kind of the one wants what the other doesn't. And I feel like their through was a boy. It was Fiero. Of like that was the thing they both wanted, but both of them technically couldn't have. But Fiero wanted one over the other, clearly. Um, so
Well,
I don't know.
because
I found,
because Glinda had Fiero, but she didn't. She thought she wanted him, but really, what she wanted was the magic and to be able to help the people of Oz. Like
yeah,
this was just like an extra. That was like an extra piece of like what she thought she wanted. So it was
and
another.
she was
It was
willing to do whatever, and she was willing to do whatever it takes for the most part to hold on to that, even if it was kind of losing Fiero. But she
yeah,
wanted him.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was. I also thought the movie um, was an excellent showcase for how kind of like how propaganda works.
Yeah,
Because like all the they show time of like her as like this evil cartoon, and they're just plastering it all over their Emerald City, and people are like catching them as they're flying in the air, and then all the townspeople are talking, and that's like creating and growing the rumor of the Wicked Witch. So it's almost like all they had to do is push the needle a little bit, and everybody, and then the townsfolk did the work for them of
Yeah.
spreading of how evil she actually is.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too, because and you see the machine working, and even Michelle Yeoh was even. I think it's a great example of that when she was explaining the bubble
Mm.
to
Yes.
Linda, and it was a funny bit too, where she's like, "I just tap it, and the bubble comes up, and then she pops it, and the bubble comes up and pops it, and whatever." And you can see Michelle Yeoh getting annoyed a little bit, little funny banter, little funny scene there, but to the point across of like, we just need to sell it. We don't need, you to actually be it. We just need to sell that Elphaba is the Wicked Witch, and they're gonna buy into it.
Hmm.
And it's almost like they're saying that their people, the townspeople, are idiots in a way. Like, and in some cases, if this is a kind of a satire or a commentary on, to your point, the propaganda aspect of it, kind of says that we are, in some cases, can be idiots as well if we're just following along with everything you put on the screen, and we're just gonna blissfully agree with it.
Yeah, it's a
And then
great.
you have some people like Elphaba who is going against the grain and be like, "Hey, this isn't right." But if she doesn't have the same, you know, marketing power, say, than the wizard, then no one's gonna believe you.
Yep. Then they're just gonna see. Then they're gonna believe what they want to believe. Kind of how he detailed in the song "Wonderful."
Right. And then also I think she even tried to plead her case with the animals, but they weren't even fully believing her either. And it was also an interesting perspective that we got the cowardly lion voiced by Coleman Domingo very briefly, but he was
Yeah.
in there. And he was showcasing that we saw a different scene play out in the first movie where she saved the cub from the cage. But in his perspective, that was the only home that he knew.
Yeah.
And then she forced him into the wild where he was never comfortable, but he felt safe in that cage and then resented her for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we do things that we think are good, but we know not what the repercussions of that is. Like what
Right.
we don't know what that person's perspective of it is. And I know I kind of mentioned I call back to it again, but in that song, "Wonderful," he talks about different situations. He's like, he talks about a conqueror. Like you could either see him as a conqueror or you can see him as a liberator. Everything is dependent on the perspective that you're given of that situation. And I think
Yeah.
it's true. That's so true for the things that happen in this movie, and we can relate that to things that happen in the real world.
Yeah. And I think also illustrated was like in a song as well. No good deed goes unpunished.
Mm,
Like that. First of all, that is, if Defying Gravity was a showstopper for the first Wicked movie,
mm.
No Good Deed was 100% the showstopper, in my opinion. For
Fucking phenomenal. That one, my top two are "No Good Deed" and "As Long as You're Mine." I thought cinematically how they played that out on screen was incredible. Literally, after she did "No Good Deed," because she hits that last note and then it cuts and it's kind of
yeah,
silent. And I was sitting next to my son Julian, and I just go, "Wow." I mean, Cynthia, she fucking she's. I
you
mean, they're
nailed it.
both. They're both. So regardless of whatever
Yeah.
issues the movies may have, the songs were phenomenal. I thought
I-
even the additional songs I really enjoyed. The "Girl in the Bubble" I thought was really good. "No Place Like Home," kind of a homage nod to the original Wizard of Oz. "No Place Like Home." I thought they were great additions, but damn, no, the visually and her rendition of "No Good Deed" were fucking incredible. Just I
Yeah.
mean, incredible.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the movie is slower and darker than the original, like
Yes.
than the part one. And so I was fully awake the entire time, but I definitely felt there was a slow nature to it that I wasn't 100% prepared for. I knew it was gonna be darker. I didn't feel like it was gonna be slow paced, and I feel like we were kind of slowly, gradually getting to the point of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But when we got to No Good Deed, I was like, I kind of like, whoa, okay,
Set up.
now we're
I'm gonna
like,
sit up in my seat a little bit.
I mean, I was like, you kind of sitting here, you're like, wait a minute, hold up. And then even like, and it was showcasing the trailer too, but it was like, no, 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 no. It was like, that, yeah, yes, like,
Dualaka. Yeah, I
that's
love
it.
it.
That's the one.
Sorry.
And so like that build up, and even like no good deed goes unpunished, and it's just like, holy shit, like this is like this is her basically becoming the villain.
Yeah.
Like if this was an any other movie, this is the villain song.
Yep.
This is like Scars Be Prepared. Like
Yeah.
that's what that to me, that's what that was.
That was beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. And it felt like in a way a tragic turn for her character. Because this was like right after she just had that intimate moment with Fierro and then learning that her sister died. And so like that was like right at that moment where like I am wicked now. Like this is I'm just gonna if everyone thinks I'm gonna be the villain, then I'm gonna assume the role of the villain. And it's kind of a tragic turn for her character because we were kind of following on as her as the protagonist the entire time. It was kind of sad that she kind of just assumed that role to some degree.
Well, they make it so believable. It's like, oh well,
Yeah.
of course you would turn into the Wicked Witch because everybody fucks you over. So fuck them.
Yeah.
So this is you want me to
so
be
what's the
wicked?
point?
Then I'm gonna be wicked.
I'm gonna be wicked. And even like there was a point where she again had that intimate moment with Fierro in the very famous last line. So this is the first time I felt
Wicked.
Yeah. Which was highlighted very much in the play, and I think they did a really good job kind of replicating that
Yes.
as an adaptation. And I feel like that this is the first time she feels like she's like, oh, I'm doing something for me, basically. This is the first time doing like this is what feels right. And it's weird, and I feel like I'm going back to it, but it does still bother me. The tone of Nessa's death. That fell immediately afterward, when we had like this playful fight between Glinda and Elphaba. Like I feel like that type of vibe would have fit perfectly in part one.
Yeah.
But because we weren't getting that playful tone for like the good majority of this movie, for them to have that scene, I enjoyed it, but it felt off. And so to go from the intimate moments of Fierro to then this playful banter and this kind of fight that led into Fierro then kind of rushing in and kind of, putting a gun to Glinda's head and was like, I'm going to shoot Elphaba, go away. And then, this is obviously the spell that turned in the next scene for no good deed. And then he turns him into straw so they can't hurt him. Like it felt like it was like 3 total shifts back to back to back. And that was where I feel like sometimes the movie never really was able to stay on the same lane as what it was trying to do. And so it kind of bothered me a little bit that we went from like, here's this romance to here's this comedy. Now here's this like intense, like emotional beat, as well as like, here's like the pickup of it all. Like I wouldn't really call it action, but it's more an elevated scene than the other two.
Yeah.
And I found that really interesting, like comparison between the rest of the movie. And honestly, and you said the 2 new songs were "No Place Like Home" and "The Girl in the Bubble."
Mm-hmm.
"No Place Like Home," I feel like didn't hit as hard as I wanted to, as far as a new addition to the song. I felt like in a way, even though it was a beautiful song, it felt like a little bit unnecessary. Like I don't think I needed that.
Oh, we definitely didn't need it. I mean, we didn't.
Yeah.
Whereas I agree with you. I felt like "A Girl in the Bubble" was more fitting just because it felt like it gave us so much backstory on Glinda, excuse me. Like it where like the song really showcases like, oh, this is who you are, this is how you feel. Like we get it. We totally get you and the way you are, the way you are. Whereas
but I also feel like it was placed better in the movie because that song was her turning point to go help Elphaba.
Yes, very true. Very true. Whereas for like "No Place Like Home" is kind of like these people don't love me. Like even though I love this place, like, but please come and stay. And then they left anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Kyrie's like, fuck her. She sucks. Go down that tunnel.
Yeah, everyone's involved with the song and they're feeling it. And the line just goes, whoa, everybody. Hold up.
Don't listen to what that crazy bitch has to say. You know what she did to me? You the reason
she
why
took me out of the cage. I love that cage.
I'm afraid because of her. My life sucks because of Elphaba. Don't listen to her. Go down that yellow brick road.
Yo, go down that hole. You deserve to go into that hole of nowhere. We don't know where it goes. We kind of figured it out at the end of the movie, maybe. This abyss of unknown. But that's better than what you're dealing with right now. Go in there. Be afraid. Be like me.
All right.
Put them up.
And they go, yeah, you're right. And they all leave.
Yeah. Nice song, though. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, thanks. That was really pretty. We really appreciate you doing that. But we're going to leave. We're still going to go, though. Uh,
Yeah, and I felt like again there were character like even with the wizard played a smaller role. I mean, I guess in both movies he played a small role. Um, but I guess in this movie he played more of a puppet to Michelle Yeoh. Like he was just kind of going along with her master plan. And I don't know. I feel like there were just maybe some beats, like I explained earlier, that we could have established more groundwork to make some of these scenes more impactful. So then, like even like to the point that you mentioned earlier, like seeing Bach turn into the Tin Man, we kind of saw this like black and white version of Fierro turning into the Scarecrow, but like they were kind of taken away from us from. I mean, No Good Deed is definitely needs to be on the screen more than Fierro turning into a straw. But at the same time, like these scenes would have had some emotional weight that and I think it would have hit home a little bit for me. This is just for me now. That if we would have seen a scene or two play out from The Wizard of Oz as intended to kind of really bring that tragedy like to play. For example, like if we actually saw him get beat up, dragged away, physically turn him into into like a scarecrow, and then the guards kind of just like pitching him up on the cross, and then maybe mere minutes later we see Dorothy come up strolling from the yellow brick road and asking for help. Like this man just went through a beating and changed his entire appearance, and then you have this little girl coming over. Hey, can you take me to the wizard? Like I feel like that tragedy would have hit a little bit harder if we would have seen that scene play out.
so
Clearly, this was not the same movie, but, like, emotionally, I feel like that would have helped a little.
it just seems, and I don't know what the copyright is, but I mean, like even the shoes were never red. They were always silver. So I
Yeah.
wonder if I mean, we never saw Dorothy's face. I mean, there's
Yeah.
just certain we just never saw anything from that. So I don't know what they can. I wonder if there's issues of what they can and can't use within the movies because I do know that there was something about the shoes. The reason why they're silver is because of copyright. When he was I think when he was writing the book or whatever the case is, so that they couldn't use the ruby. They couldn't be ruby, even though like
Yeah.
when she's levitating her, the shoes glow red. So it's like that was kind of their
Yeah,
way of getting
when
away
she
with
was
it.
I thought they were gonna turn red, to be honest with
So
you,
did
when
I.
she was like, when they were levitating Nessa. They went back to silver, but I think, again, that was a nod to
Yes.
the first movie, as well as very similar after rewatching the first Wicked movie. Like when Glinda was singing "Popular,"
Yep.
she took the red ruby slippers and tapped them 3 times and tossed them. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I saw
Uh,
that too. Yeah.
so, and so, like, it's weird to then compare this to the first movie because it's hard for me to do that now
Yeah, it's so
because
different.
the first movie felt very playful. It felt in a very weird way, and I'm trying to find, like, some way to compare this that makes sense in my head. The first 2 Harry Potter movies felt lighter in tone. Yes,
Yes.
there were darker elements to it, but it felt like we're having fun discovering the world of the wizarding world. We're looking at Hogwarts, we're looking at Shiz, we're looking how this environment works. We're looking kids coming to school, this playful banter of 2, enemies becoming friends, and we have these touching moments, and then going to see the wizard, seeing the Emerald City for the first time. All of that feels nice and playful. Wasn't until the last couple of Harry Potter movies where things become a lot darker, things become very serious.
Hmm.
But I feel like we had a lot of time to build. We had 7 movies to build to that. Whereas this one it was only 2. So I felt like if this was, say, a trilogy, even though I don't think it needs to be, but like I feel like the immediate tonal shift for people who are like myself, just watching or rewatching the first movie and then immediately watching the second one, it's you're not getting the light, fluffy, like bubbly, like movie that you enjoyed and had fun watching the first time around. And also the music wasn't as lively as the first one either.
Yeah.
So like you're then getting these more somber emotional songs in this movie. And also the tone is much different that when they did put a little bit of levity in there, it didn't feel right. Even
Yeah.
though the whole first movie felt that it was, exuding off of this light-hearted tone. Tone's not a word, but you know what I
No, I get it. No, I get you. I mean, they built up to it, and most of the songs in the first one, I would argue, besides "Defying Gravity," where it's kind of like tonally they shift to like this epic finale of a song, where most of the songs are lighthearted.
Yeah. And also they're just more upbeat. Like naturally, if it's lighthearted, the songs are much upbeat and they're more toe tappers. And this one it's more like you kind of have to listen to the words because what they're saying is filled with emotion and like, and stuff like that. And I feel like that it doesn't really lend well to if you're looking for a good time in the theater. It's more like, damn, man, this is like pretty sad,
Yeah,
and it's meant to be sad.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. And then also like if we're comparing more to Wizard of Oz, like I think my second favorite song from this movie was "For Good." I think that emotional song that Glinda and Elphaba had at the very end of like, "I'm here for you," and Elphaba kind of realizing that she needs to die in order to kind of fit the narrative that has been presented. That is the only way that we can move forward and make things good again. And also giving Glinda the power to do said good without the magic. Like her magic is being herself and being like Glinda the good. And to now actually put that into practice, not don't be fake about it. Like you're not trying to put this up for the audience, but to actually do good for your friend.
Hmm.
I think that's a very powerful song to kind of end the movie with. And then seeing the perspective of like Dorothy putting like kind of like throwing the water on Elphaba. And I never thought that if that was even real or not. Like, does she actually can die with water on her?
Well, no, I don't. I think obviously not. I think that was just a lie that one of those propaganda things that was propagated, and they just kind of went with it. Oh well, you think I'm allergic to water, so we'll leave it. I mean, Elphaba literally pours the bucket of water herself and leaves it out.
Right. Which is an interesting again, when you're looking at a different point of view and you go back and rewatch The Wizard of Oz, it's meant to be a completely different perspective on it. So like the Wicked Witch of the West, the most villain of all time is actually not that bad at all. And there's a different story behind it, which I think which makes Wicked compelling.
Yeah,
Um,
and going back to For Good. Like I love For Good, especially in the show. I mean, that's the showstopper in the end. But I feel like in the movie it was underwhelming. It
Interesting.
was still good. I still really enjoy the song. I think it's a great song. I think they both did well. I think, but compared to Kristen Chenoweth and Adina Menzel's version of that song, you're talking about people who sang this song together on Broadway for years. They have
Yeah.
years of harmonizing together. They probably know each other on just such an intimate level for how much they've sang together. So when you hear them do that song, it's just to me it's a different thing. It's just
Yeah.
totally different. Not to take away from these two. I thought it was good, but if I had to compare them, I think the original version of this song hits a little bit harder.
And like I have nothing to compare it to without like
Listening to both, yeah.
listening to yeah. But I mean I have no comment to say about that because I don't really have but I definitely like with the amount of years that they have time to sing that song together, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And also like I don't I liked that I like the way they wrapped up the movie. Like I feel like the ending, even though I have my issues with like a lot of the tones in this film and like some of the songs didn't quite like be again, it was a very different tonally movie. I think it kind of wrapped up in a very beautiful way, kind of highlighting the friendship that they both had,
Mm,
kind of realizing the roles they had to play in order to make things better. Like Elphaba realizing that she had to basically die and give the people what they wanted in order for Glenda to do good. And like we saw that kind of wrap up in the like it was the bookend of the both stories of like her and Munchen's land, kind of illustrating that the Wicked Witch is dead, and kind of inviting everyone to be like, we don't have to be what the wizard is, and kind of seeing him go off and like kind of her take charge. Like they like the wizard and the Emerald City and Marble no longer has leverage, and
mm.
now she has all the leverage to make those decisions. So much so that like they did the thing that everyone saw coming was that uh, uh the wizard was Alphaba's father, as if
Yeah.
we didn't already know. I mean, hell, we heard Jeff Goldblum's voice in the beginning of that movie,
Yes.
and he was holding the green elixir the entire time. It was like the easiest. Of course, you're the father, but he's now realizing and kind of realizing that he basically like, oh, I just killed my daughter, and now you must go away to wherever you came from, back in that balloon.
Back in the blue. And also weird CGI of him as a young man. It's kind of
Yeah, that
strange.
was a little.
I
We
didn't
could
need
have done
that.
that a little bit better.
We actually didn't need that.
That's fair.
We could have just had something subtle that showed it was him, but we didn't need that.
Yeah, it felt very jarring. It was very quick,
Yeah.
but jarring nonetheless. Um, yeah, and I kind of like that she kind of take charge and like kind of doing this stuff for good. Um, and yeah, and I think if anyone's familiar with the play, obviously Alphaba never died at the end. and she was able to. I would really love to see this perspective of like this new version of like the Tin Man and the Scarecrow following Dorothy around. Like there was also a scene in the movie which was also highlighted in the play where the Tin Man's like, "We have to kill this witch. Like, look what she did to me." Like that was never in the Wizard of Oz. Like they barely even knew the witch.
Kill
Uh,
the witch.
and it just felt very like off kilter. I would love to see these conversations that they had with one another and like what was Fierro really thinking in these moments to like befriend like was all this a lie? Was the whole Wizard of Oz just a lie? In order to get this lady back home. Like, why were they being friendly with her? Like, I have so many more questions now watching The Wizard of Oz under this new perspective. And I just came to the realization that you can't, these are not the same movies.
No.
They're two different. This is a completely different reimagining of this franchise, of this like idea. Um, and so, yeah, I had to get that in my mind. But, kind of seeing the ending of like Fiero and Alphaba having their happy ending. Like, how'd you feel about that?
I
I mean,
loved
it
it.
was always part of the play, but like seeing kind of play out in the movie.
I thought it was beautiful. I mean, we get a little bit more because we actually in the show, you see him get her out of the trap door, and then they kind of just go off screen. They kind of go off stage, and then it's perceived that they go off. But now we actually see them like they literally ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, and like we don't know what is out there, but they're together, and I
And
guess
that
that's important.
and that's all that matters. To me it was just regardless of those minor issues I have, I did like the ending just because they each get their happy ending. Glinda gets to be who she is, and the cat has joined the podcast.
Yeah, we really wanted to be here.
They both get their happy ending, so I really enjoyed the ending. I mean, overall the movie was very good. I still
Yeah,
think,
it was good. I just felt like there were more issues that I had with this movie than I did with the first one.
100%.
And I also and it's funny the final shot, perfect. The final shot with like they were showcasing scenes of them having like the simpler times when they were all friends and at shiz that we never saw in the first movie.
Yeah.
But you saw like Bach and Nissa and Elphaba and Fiero and Glinda all together, like looks like going like on a picnic or something, and they're all just kind of being next to a tree. And we saw some of those scenes in like earlier in the movie when they were kind of recounting like the good old days and they wish they can just go back to those moments. Um but the final shot of the movie was in that same scene was Glinda kind of whispering something into Elphaba's ears, the kind of emulating and replicating the poster
Yes.
that was in like the famous Broadway poster. And I think that was a perfect way to end the movie, a great final shot for the film. And I think what's even better was that now since the movie's out, more interviews are coming out, and Jon M. True said in an interview that he refused to let the executives see that shot,
Yeah.
and fearing that they might use it for the trailer,
Which they would have.
which they 100% would. And I think that was that was a smart play on his part to not let them see that, and it was way better for the movie's sake to kind of let the audience see that as a final shot rather than like seeing that kind of showcased um in a trailer.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's quickly talk about the box office. This movie, without question, made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
This movie opened to what appears to be $147 million at the time of this recording. Domestically, it has made $147 million. Internationally, it has made $76 million with a grand total of $223 million. That's a great opening for sure, and I'm sure it's going to be making more as the weeks go on. The only really competition it has with is Zootopia 2, which is no different than what the first movie went with last year, which it went up against, like it opened up the weekend before Thanksgiving, and then the weekend of Thanksgiving, Moana 2 came out. And that movie ended up making $1 billion.
Yeah.
Funny enough. So like I think it's under the same like like the same competition. This time is another Disney animated movie, Zootopia 2, that also the first movie made $1 billion. So a lot of people are probably to go see that movie again. So like not really any real competition going in for Wicked for Good. I'm sure a lot of people are going to go and check this out. 223 opening weekend was great. It's now has beaten its own record of becoming the highest grossing Broadway musical of all time. Opening weekend as well. So like it made the most opening weekend is now. I mean, well, I guess now as far as the best opening for a Broadway musical of all time. The first movie opened at $112 million. So it's kind of crazy that now a year later the marketing is so strong, and it looks like it gained an extra say $30 million on opening weekend. And it's hard to say internationally, but I just find that interesting that like their plan worked. They're like literally having this year off, not a year off, but like this year build up on a part two, and it got more people into opening weekend. So like it also had a full year for people to rewatch the movie if they didn't catch it in theaters. The more marketing behind it, more of an event film for people to go watch. I think this is very much an event movie.
Of
So
course. Well, and of
say
course,
it again.
this one. Well, I was saying, of course, like I agree with you. I think
Yeah,
just because the hype from the first one and the fucking marketing on both films
yeah,
have been crazy. Like um they were able to do that.
yeah. And I'm really curious to see if this movie hits a billion. I don't see it honestly, but I'm curious to see if this movie ends up making more money than the first movie. It's considering that now I feel like that more people probably went to go rewatch it because of how fun it was. I don't know if you're gonna have the same rewatchability of people wanting to drive to the theater to watch this movie again. There's gonna be a select few who do that, but I'm not sure if it's gonna be as much as the first movie because it's not as fun as the first movie. Well, time will tell on that. And by the end of the year, we'll probably have a better idea of where this movie's gonna land in terms
Yeah,
of box office.
yeah, exactly.
But with all of that, our final thoughts.
All right, final thoughts. I thought it was great. The first one is better because I think it just plays better as in like as a musical event, whereas this one was more movie, um, movie than musical. And I think, I mean, some of the songs still hit. I was a little underwhelmed for Thank Goodness and For Good. Not to say they're bad, but I think I enjoy the Broadway versions a little bit better. But damn, No Good Deed and As Long as You're Mine, those are the bangers out of this movie. I mean, amazing. It was just amazing. Um, yeah, I think as far as my rating, I'm gonna go 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I was 100% with you. I think we gave 4.5 out of 5, or did we give it a 5.5? Um, I think we gave it 4.5 stars
I think we
on
did.
the first movie. See if I can go back real quick. Uh, where's the review? Nope. Come on. I see when we talked about it. I'm gonna keep looking. Um, but yeah, I 100% agree with you on this one. I'm gonna go through the other way. Hold on. Now this is bothering me. I think we gave it a 4 out of 5. Like, sorry, four and a half. I don't know why I couldn't find the graph. There it is. We gave it 5 out of 5 actually.
Yeah, that makes
We gave it
sense.
we gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Um, I think also because like it was a lot of newness for us. A lot of the stuff like and I'll talk about this in a second, but like now we're going into Oscar contention. This movie won for costume design and production design. And do you think it will kind of go again to go after those same awards again, considering that it was already awarded for basically the same sets that we were seeing because this is filmed at the same time. So there's nothing that's necessarily new that we were getting from the second movie, but will it? You think it will still be recognized regardless?
No, I don't think so. Well, or maybe it might
I
just
feel like more
because.
costume designs because there are definitely different costumes in this movie than it was illustrated in the first movie. So maybe we can see that kind of pushed forward again. But as far as the production design, I mean, it's the same thing. I don't think they will go after it again for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I don't. I'm not. I don't know. I think they're gonna try to push those songs into the
100%.
Oscars category. I don't know. I don't. This movie's doing obviously it's doing really well, but I'm not seeing the same hype as we did from the first one.
100%. And I as much as I felt like that Wicked, the first movie, was like a good quality and good like uh good contender for Best Picture, I don't see it for Wicked for Good.
Mm,
I don't see this as Best Picture quality. I see a lot of elements for it, but not quite Best Picture. I wouldn't be surprised if Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande get nominated again, because I
yeah,
do feel like that Ariana Grande shined more in this movie, just slightly more than she did in the first one. But
yeah.
I
I agree.
think Cynthia Erivo did, she did well in both movies, and so the both of them did. So like to be nominated again, I can see it because they feel tonally different. They were technically different performances.
Mhm.
But I feel like, and I still agree that even though I think Cynthia Erivo was a little bit better in the first movie than she did the second, I feel like within both movies, Ariana Grande as Galinda was definitely shining more in
Yeah.
her performance in both movies.
Yeah, I agree. I feel more so in this film than the first one, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think because the expectations and the hype and like the grand epic finale that they were pushing, the expectations were so high that coming out of it, I felt a little underwhelmed that it didn't quite meet all of those expectations.
Mm.
Especially again, the biggest thing was there were a lot of setups in the first movie that I feel like were rushed payoffs in the second. Even though we had 2 hours and 20 minutes of this movie, we could have flushed out some of the characters that were introduced rather than say, for example, like a song like "No Place Like Home," which I did like. Just it felt unnecessary when we could have maybe given that time to a point I brought up earlier with like Nessa and Bach,
Yeah.
and like giving them more story beats than like Alphabet singing about "Don't go in the hole" and them go in the hole anyway. So like you know what I mean? It's like I feel
Yeah.
like there were just some decisions there that just felt like we were crossing, just checking off boxes. But that's kind of where it came down for me a little bit. So like I think 4 out of 5 stars is a good solid rating. Still a great movie nonetheless. Like
Yeah,
I still
absolutely.
enjoyed it. But it's just very different. And I feel like upon a second viewing, I might even appreciate it a little bit more, knowing what I'm walking myself into,
Yeah.
but also recognizing that these are two very different movies.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important when you go watch it. But yeah, we gave the first one a 5 out of 5. Wicked for Good, 4 out of 5. But there you go. That's our spoiler review on Wicked for Good, and that is all the show we have for you guys this week. As always, you can follow us on all of our social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Box Office Bingers, our X and Letterboxd page at Box Office Binger, and our Threads and Instagram page at Box Office _Bingers. The fun doesn't stop here; it continues on all of our social media channels. So be sure to give each one of those a follow. We'll tell you what's new to streaming every Friday. We'll tell you the box office numbers every Sunday as well. You can see our beautiful faces in short form videos on our YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram page is all there, and our movie reviews on our Letterboxd page. So again, be sure to give each one of those a follow. You're not going to regret it. We are kind of loosey goosey for the rest of this year as
Yeah.
far as when we might come back. I know Ernesto's still on paternity leave, so he is still enjoying all the time with the babies and all the kids and all the holiday fun. So at the very least, our goal is to at least do one more as far as like
Yeah.
big blockbuster hit. We both really want to watch Avatar, Fire, and Ash. So you
Yeah.
can definitely look forward to that review. As far as other movies that are coming out in the theaters, it's going to be a hit or miss, but we're more in likely to follow some streaming movies that are coming out in
Yeah.
the next
Maybe get
couple.
a foreign film in there.
Yeah, maybe get a foreign film in there. But yeah, the next big blockbuster is most likely to be Avatar, Fire, and Ash. And maybe I know there's a couple of Oscar contenders, some award. See, we're looking out for the award season as right now, and so Netflix is putting out a few as well. So we're definitely going to be looking into those, and so maybe some of the smaller movies might be taking the forefront for a little bit as we wrap up the end of the year. And then, of course, as we get to the end of the year and beginning of next year, we're going to be doing our kind of top 10 or top movies of 2025, which I'm going to be honest with you, Ernesto. I feel like there's not a lot of them for me.
Yeah,
Like,
this is
I
gonna
want to,
be an interesting year.
this would be a very interesting year because I don't even know if I can get to 10 confidently. Just kind of putting it out there. Like, I
Well,
don't know if I can get.
we can still have a month. We still have a month and a couple days, so we'll see.
We do. We'll see what other movies come out. But like, as far as like thinking is like, I can only think of like maybe like completely like memorable movies. We're probably looking at maybe 3 to 5. But I really have to go down that list to really.
It might be a top 5 this year. Who knows? We'll see.
Might be 5 this year. You're right. You're not wrong. But yeah, we're looking for an exciting end of the year, and then as we kind of prepare for next year's Yell, that we're approaching that time of year where we're getting, and then also the end of the year. Before the end of the year, we're gonna have a big news segment where we're gonna talk about all the news that happened from the last episode we had before our long break, and all the stuff that happened then, as well as kind of do like an end of year news wrap up
Yeah.
as well. So be sure to look forward to that and all of our future episodes. We like to thank each and every one of you for listening to us just talk about movies and watching us just talk about movies. Really do appreciate it. Come back next time for more movie fun. Not gonna regret it. That I've been your host.
Oh, and I've been Ernesto Santos. See ya.